And we're live, so welcome to tonight's Guitar and Amp Tech Talk. I'm in very good company with Captain Chris down there. How you going, Chris?
Good
And
evening.
to my right, and to my right, who do we have up here? Dwight. How you going? And also down the bottom here we have Brendan. So, does anyone want to start the formalities first and what you might do? So maybe Dwight, do you want to go first?
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm. What am I, Brendan? What am I, Chris?
You are a guitar guru.
There we go.
You are my saviour. I'm the guy here that actually doesn't play or do anything, but has plenty of work done by both of these gentlemen.
Yep.
So not that I'd ever admit it in a private setting, I'd say how much they suck. But in real life, unfortunately, that's not the case. These guys have gotten me out of more holes over the years musically than I'd care to share normally. So, but they've both saved my ass, excuse the French, more than once.
Okay, cool. So maybe some of the client list, if that's cool, or things that you've done over the years. Can we do any name dropping?
Look.
You've worked for me.
Chris Regan.
Straight to the top of the list.
Brendan. I've worked on Brendan's guitars.
That's it, behind the customers.
I've worked on
I've
my
heard
own
you're really
guitars.
good at doing relic Japanese Jags or Jazz Masters or whatever it was.
I've got a tow bar on the back of the for me.
So what's some of the bigger clients that you've done some guitars for?
Obviously, I've worked with Rick and John Brewster with the Angels.
The Angels,
I
cool.
look after, I've fixed.
Let's just drop that one over there. The Angels.
Yeah, I'll just drop that one in.
Cool.
Actually, Rick rang me today, so it's nice that Rick and John rang me the other day. Just we keep in contact with each other. We're not just
You're their
rock
guitar
gods
tech
and me.
Dwight, you're their guitar tech and stage manager and on tour and stuff, aren't you? When
they're up here and they fly me here, there, and everywhere. But last year, Rick's Epiphone Sheraton.
Yep.
Got the headstock broken off, so he flew it back up here to me, and I repaired it for him.
So those who just joined us, we're talking about the Angels. Dwight up here, sorry, Dwight, to interrupt you, but Dwight here is guitar tech for the Angels, Aussie legends.
Well,
Look,
I have to say I'm one of the guitar techs. I do know
fair enough.
Down in Sydney, Falcon looks after them as a stage guy.
Yep.
And in South Australia, Athol looks after them as their stage guy. As far as being their tech / Luthier, that is me. They do fly their instruments to me.
So what was the latest repair you had to do, Dwight?
The latest one I did was John Brewster's Mini Maton, which is the diesel signature Mini Maton.
I know that one.
It had been cracked around the body. The frets were so out of level. The neck was twisted. So I did body repairs. I did all the fret and the neck work. I made it sing again. That's why he rang me the other day. He says, "I'm just playing the Mini Maton, and it's just singing out to me. So I had to ring you."
Awesome.
And I thought that's really nice, John. I just hope you and Sue are keeping well, and hope to see you soon.
Well, that's kind of cool because with those guitars with the Angels, like those guitars are the tools for the backdrop for many people growing up, right? You're listening to all those songs.
Absolutely. In fact, Rick's main working touring guitar is a Strat style guitar that he actually hand built.
Oh wow! So it's custom, right?
A couple of years. Yeah, it's a Rick Brewster custom. It's a custom that actually I made the custom templates for him.
Yep.
I also supplied the hardware, and I also wound his pickups.
Wow.
And
your Blue Rock pickup, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. So it's a single humbucker in the bridge. And then when he actually came through the building stages of it, he was ringing me up every day, and I talked him through what he needed to do. And I kept, always my thing is 80% planning, 20% doing. So I talked him through all that. And then when he finished it and we met up again on the Red Hot Summer Tour, he handed me the guitar and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Oh man, you've done beautiful woodwork."
Yeah, right.
I didn't tell him that the fretwork was rubbish, but I let him finish. I let him but in all honesty, because it's honeymoon, and he and I have spoken about this. So I let him finish the tour, and then he came back up on another tour, and I was working with him, and he said, "Oh, I think it needs a bit of a tweak." And I said,
Okay.
"Look, I'll take it home and I'll work out what needs to be done with it." So I work in a couple of playing bands, performing bands, a show band called the Cocker, the Man and His Music, which is a Joe Cocker band.
Awesome.
And
Tribute
BB and
show.
the Kings. Yeah, It's a beautiful tribute show. We get amazing gigs. We get amazing crowds. So I took it to a rehearsal, and I instantly realised that the frets were falling out. So I said to him, "Look, man, I love this guitar, but I've got to refret it." And he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "Jumbo stainless. That's it. I don't want to refret it again."
Yeah. Wow.
So I did that for him, and he's been playing on those frets ever since, and that's 15, 16 months. He still loves the guitar like it's his first wife.
Wow.
But Rick and I like I flew down. Well, Rick flew me down, I should say, to Hobart beginning of the year. Because Rick and I actually.
Sorry, what Angels tour? What Angels tour was that?
This is on the Red Hot Summer Tour.
Yeah, right. Okay, so this is pretty recent.
Yep. Absolutely. So well, I got to hang out with the likelihood of those wonderful people called James Rain and his band, which I've worked with many a time. Susie DiMarchi, Baby Animals, which I've worked with a few times. Cool. I got to hang out and check out the Living End, and Chris Chaney, he just
legend.
He just absolutely rocked it. And
great guitar
fan.
Because I work with the Angels when they're up here as well, and Chris was just blowing it away even more. Like, he's just so international. But besides all that, he does beat the shit out of his Gretches, and they all go out of tune.
So you fixed him up?
No. He's got his own tech.
All right.
But Rick and I, some time ago, Rick rang me and he says, "I've got this idea for a guitar, and I've had it for this idea for 10 years. And it's like a travel guitar." So, and he says, "I've already got a name for it. It's called the Pick Me." I went, "That's okay." I said, "So tell me what basically the specs, what does it need to be?" And he says, "Well, we as touring musos, we've got a size limit of 80 centimeters. So you have to build a guitar that is under 80 centimeters long."
Oh.
So I went, "Okay." And he sent me a couple of pictures, and I said, "Man, that's never going to work." He said, "Why not?" I said, "It's the scale, your frets and all that. The scale's wrong. It's got to be full scale, otherwise it's not going to feel the same when you play it."
Yeah. In fact, Rick.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Rick. Yeah. So I designed a guitar. I just all I do is I roll out a piece of butcher's paper, draw a center line, and I do the scale, and I start to draw something. And I drew something around what he was thinking, and then I shrunk the body and I shrunk the headstock, so we came down to 78 centimeters, and it's the Pick Me guitar. Wow. And he now has the when I flew down to Tassie the week before the weekend of the Red Hot tour, which was Hobart and Launceston, we built the guitar. And so we actually have a working prototype of the Pick Me guitar. And there's just stuff like that. We're mates. I ring him up, he rings me up, he sends me something, I send him something. It's not like Rick Brewster the Angels. John Brewster, the
Yep.
Angels. But but on the other side of it all, it is, because when I first met them, this was a few years back. I was walking across front of stage while they were sound checking, and John was playing that Mini Maiden.
Yep.
And he was playing it, and he was playing a G chord, and I could hear the G string having a sympathetic harmonic at the headstock.
That's
And
a
I
wolf
stopped.
tone, right? That's a wolf tone, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I turned and I stopped the band, right? And I said, sorry, don't, mate, they've never met me at this stage, right? And I said, could you just play me that G chord again? And he plays it. Now just play the G string. And John said to me, look, it's just the sound that I get, and I just get used to it. I said, mate, now that I'm here, you don't need to get used to it. Give me the guitar. So I recut the nut in his guitar, and that was it. That was the beginning. And then I'm out there and I'm recutting the nut, and Dave Gleeso is talking to me going, so what do you do? And Rick's asking me, and I said, I'm a luthier. I make custom guitars and whatever. Dave says to me, jokingly, I love Dave. Dave and I are mates, especially after the Rock the Boat cruise. He says, "What? Don't tell me a fucking guitar tech that can actually fix guitars." Right. So I told him the story, and Rick's ears pricked up because he's had the dream of building a guitar for 40 years. And so I helped him realise the dream. And that's how he now has that beautiful Stratocaster that he plays all around Australia.
And what can you tell us about the pickups? That because you actually make your custom pickups.
I do.
That's in his.
Yeah. My brand of pickups are called Blue Rock, and it's BLU-ROCK. Now I named them that because they really are. From where I come from musically, it's for blues and rock, or rock blues rock, right?
Okay. It's pretty original.
They any good? Are they any good? That's a subjective thing.
Yeah.
I've got a set. They're beautiful.
Excellent.
I tend to wind mine to vintage spec because I've worked over the years on a lot of vintage guitars, and I know how they sound. I know how they're wound.
Yeah. Are they noise cancelling, or are they
they're traditional? They're noisy. That's part of the sound, man. But I'm also using copper from the same manufacturers / suppliers that were winding and making copper for the original Fender and Gibson. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So and it's very expensive. So.
You obviously had to import that.
No, I imported from the US. It cost me the last shipment I brought in was 10.2 pounds of copper, and it cost me close to 1,300 Australian dollars.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. Must be great sounding pickups.
Well, I don't know, but that's subjective. Rick's got them, and like I said, I was doing a tour with the Angels, and Rick at one point he's pointing down to his guitar, and
the middle pickup.
Middle. That's right, middle pickup.
The middle pickup.
That's exactly right. He's pointing at his pickup, and I said to him after the gig, I said, "What were you pointing about?" He says, "Mate, I've never used my middle pickup."
I actually had that conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So he was actually using it because they're your pickups.
He was using it because he's never used a middle pickup on a Strat in all his life.
Wow.
I can vouch for that too. I've never used one until now.
I was just saying that today to a friend of mine. So with the wiring on Rick Brewster's guitar from the Angels, is there any custom wiring? Like, is it a 5-way switch that he's running, or?
We did have some custom wiring. We did have the Eric Clapton 25 dB mid boost, which he would back when he was using regular amps, he would wind up to get a little bit of extra grunt, When I was down in Tassie, I took that out for him and I rewound it. I rewired it as standard spec. There's
Okay.
no coil. There's no coil splitting on the humbucker. It's only a 6.9, 7.1, 7. Like it's low output. It's PAF style.
Yep.
And I think it's like a 5.9 neck. It's a 6.3 middle, and it's a 7 bridge in the humbucker.
Yep.
And that's all he needs, because the thing is that I've always known about the Angels is they came from the mid 70s, and they were only ever using gear from that era. So there was none of this hot, high output, active circuitry and all that sort of stuff. So his original sound was always from traditional winding.
Right, because he has that really indie guitar sound. I'm trying to replicate that by moving the mic. You probably be able to answer this better.
You got to move it slightly off the center of the cone.
Yeah, to get that really attack.
Yeah.
So
you just said the cone word. Now there's like 970 other people locally to us have just jumped on.
Yeah, right. But anyway, it's interesting you say that. So he's used to that kind of technology, so he doesn't want any new tech to get used to it, right?
No, but amazingly, like we were talking today, and because I've worked with James Rain's band for the last few years.
Oh wow! What do you do with them?
Well, I was same thing. I was a guitar tech stage manager, but I originally, about 5 years ago, I think I built Berg's Brett Kingman a custom guitar.
Wow, I know Kingman.
Yeah. Berg's, and when I delivered it, it was at what was known then as Star City Casino on the Gold Coast. I think it's just, I don't know what it is now, Rubbish Casino, Coronavirus Casino. And when I was there, Josh, the other guitar player, Josh Owen, I could see from where I was sitting that he was having issues not only with the guitar but his sound. So when we were all backstage, I said to him, "Oh man, what's wrong with your guitar? It looks like your neck's offset."
Right.
And he actually got the neck. He actually got his guitar, and he didn't realise that his bass E string was hanging off the fretboard up past the 15th fret. So I said, "Why don't you leave it with me? And how about I do this? I'll wind you a custom set of pickups in a fully loaded pickguard, and I'll install it into your guitar. And if you like it, you can pay for it. If you don't like it, just pull it out, put yours back in,
pretty good
send
deal.
it back to me." The loaded pickguard is still in his guitar.
Wow. Okay, that's saying something.
I've been on far north Queensland tours with these guys, where Josh has turned him and he's looking and he's doing this thing like Rick was the other week, and I'm saying, "What?" And he comes off stage and says, "Man, can you hear that sound? That's your pickups."
That's pretty good. So, with actually manufacturing these pickups, is it just only custom, or have you released them, or is it just by word of mouth?
Oh no. Every custom guitar that I've made, or every guitar that I've ever made, over the last 11 years, have always had my pickups in them.
Right. Okay.
I only like I can't. It's funny. I can't consider putting my DRW custom brand on a guitar that I may have made, but it doesn't have my Blue Rock pickups in it.
Okay.
I'm a bit anal like that, I'd rather they go put a Fender or a Gibson or whatever logo on, because it's not all my work.
Perfectionist. Okay, it's good.
No, just anal.
Okay.
Just anal.
Cool.
It's my ego, If you don't have my pickups, you can't have my brand. Buy your own brand.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, but the on the other side of the coin, the crazy thing is, as a working musician, I've along the way have always been looking for, and this is a bit of a segue into you, Brendan, have always been looking for someone that knows and can handle my sound, my tone, because I'm a bit also particular about my tone. And I've got some beautiful amps that are very old, and I've tried other people, but Brendan and I came across each other some time ago. I had a what was it? It was a
Baseman, the 59
Baseman, and you had a Meza Boogie 50.
Express 50 would have been, yeah.
Express 50, yeah, and so we did a swap, but in meeting Brendan, I suddenly realised that this guy was a bit of an amp guru, and he brought some guitars to me, as you know, people throwing me bones to see how good I am.
I'm breaking some piles of shit.
Yeah, you know, I was in the early days of being in Brisbane known as the turd polisher.
Yeah, right. Sounds useful.
So
you just got to let them dry first.
Not all of them were, and that's where I met. That's where I met this guy that is the only guy, no matter what the amp is, whether it's an old vintage hand wired thing that, you know that beautiful 7-watt thing I got from Troy Casadali, for instance. You know, I love it. That's my favourite amp. You know, I've got a Black Star. I've got a AC 15 hand wired. I've got a 1985 JCM 800 2205. He works on all my amps. You know, this is the only guy that works on all my amps.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, maybe we might just do that. We might segue to Brendan.
We'll segue over to Brendan because I send him work because I know he's the best, and he sends me the work because I'm cheap.
So those who just joined us, if you got any questions, we have a guitar builder here at the top here who works on Rick Brewster's. There we go. I'll just get everyone's names back.
John Brewster. Yeah,
there we go.
I work on Nick's. I work on Nick Norton, the drummer's guitars and bass.
Yes.
I've done work on Sam Brewster's guitar as well.
Yep.
Anyway, the Angels, Rose Tattoo.
Doesn't work.
Angels, Rose Tattoo, James Rain, Baby Animals, Paul Kelly, Bimka Chopra.
Dale Ryder. It's cool. So those have just joined us. So we've got DRW guitar. Is it guitar? That's it? Just DRW? I don't know what the whole...
custom guitars.
Custom guitars.
But I'm Dwight. Yeah.
Excellent. And we're just going to segue to Brendan, who makes amplifiers for a living
and repairs. He's the amp guru.
So he would be down that way.
That way. That's it.
So here we go. So Brendan, can you please tell us your story, sir, about who and what you've worked on?
Start off in Melbourne, industrial electrician, and at the need to learn about audio. I had a passion with audio from when I was a young kid, and I mixed with some of the best audio guys down in Melbourne, and I was lucky to learn from them. And I moved up here about 27 years ago in Queensland, and, and working as an industrial electrician, people found out that I repaired audio stuff, and it just grew and grew. So then the touring companies found out about me. So.
And what's the name of your brand of amplifier?
Well, I don't actually sell amplifiers. I've made amplifiers plenty of, for myself, and other people seem to get them when I sell them and get sick of them. But I'm mainly repaired. So the company's called Sound Evolutions.
Okay, cool. I'm just making something flash here. Yeah, and so which cool things that you've done, or maybe some name dropping some customers' amplifiers you've worked on before?
He knows me.
Yeah, Chris Regan, Dwight.
Excellent.
It's funny as a tech. Often the time you don't know the stuff you're repairing for. Sometimes I get a truck full of gear turn up, and there'll be a tool. It might have been Central Australia, and I'll get amps of all shapes and sizes, PA gear, and I just repair it, and it's just an amp. I'll get the personal, people come around and see me, and I'm not too savvy with names, and I don't link up, but I don't try and intrude either.
Come on, Troy Casadale, Robbie James from Gengajang.
Oh yeah, I know Robbie James. Yeah.
Photos on your studio wall and blowing up your amp at Cleveland and all the rest of it. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot those days. Phil Emmanuel, rest in peace. Yeah, good old Phil. I
was actually on talking about Phil. I was on Tommy a friend of mine, Jason McNamara, who lives in Tokyo in Japan. He had Tommy Emmanuel on his talk show today, and he got to send my stuff in there, so it was good. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, keep going. Phil Emmanuel.
Yeah. So Phil, there's companies I've dealt with in the past, like Tail Backline, Brisbane Backline. There's Denzel Audio down in Melbourne. I do a lot of work for them, a hell of a lot, and they do a lot of acts, a lot of international acts. And over the years, I just seem to end up with everything. So it's on the back of the truck. I don't really get to meet a lot of artists and stuff like that in reality. I just seem to get the reports back and more work, So I like things being successful, and I like the things coming back with good feedback. As any repairer, guitar builder,
he's quite known for when they've sent them to other amp techs in inverted commas. Not mentioning any particular names or whatever, but when they can't work it out and they give up, they send it to Brendan, and then they get it back fixed. So,
cool.
That's my other job too. When a guitar is so butchered and it needs the guitar whisperer, they send it to me. It's like it's our worst nightmare, really, to
someone else to go.
Repair the rubbish that someone else has done, and then get to the original problem.
Yep.
So I guess what kind of amps that you actually work on, Brendan? Is it just Marshalls, or is it all boutique stuff? Because I guess with the touring circuit, with DBs not being so high anymore, and no one really tours with 35 Marshalls except if you're Yngwie Malmsteen, because I've actually seen him in LA doing a club gig, and he actually had 13 heads. True story. Because I know I had to help set them up before the gig.
Funny enough, one of the most popular amps on tour is the Fender Reissue 65 Deluxe. 65. They're just a go-to amp. Everybody uses them. Everybody knows the sound of them. And the old Fender Twin.
Yep.
I mean, they've just been a mainstay. People know the amp. So when they're flying to town and they don't know they can't get what they want, they all know a Fender Twin, or they know a Deluxe.
Hey Jimbo, fuck off.
Where is my mic? It's hanging down my head.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. There we go. There might be sounding better there.
Yeah, I can.
But the crazy thing, like from my perspective, is to actually, like, I've been working the Red Hot Summer Tour before it got cancelled, and every band are now using Axe effects to some level.
Yeah.
The modern gears
that ultimately will impact what Brendan does. He now has to start to branch into. Brendan's an electrical engineer, so he can get down to the nitty gritty and look at circuit boards and look at ICs and all that sort of stuff. The regular amp repairers can't do that. That's why he's the guru, But there are so many bands that use Axe effects. I mean, when I was on the Red Hot, so we had Boom Crash, we had Killing Heidi, we had Baby Animals, we had The Angels, we had James Rain, Living End, and
sounds
what's
good.
his name?
Oh. It said it sounds good. Wait for it.
Hunters and Collectors,
okay, cool.
Years ago, right? And in every band,
Spirit fingers.
Whether it's everyone or part of everyone, Axe effects or the Boss GT 1000 were being used.
Mm-hmm.
So what do they plug there? If it is Axe effects, digital guitar of some descript, What do they plug them into, Brendan or Dwight? Like, is it just Fender Twins or?
I'll let Brendan go first, and then I'll tell you what they do on live on stage.
There's a combination. Some people use like a powered speaker, like
QSC.
Well, there's QSC. There's what's the Head Rush? Head Rush.
Yep.
There's all the
Helix.
manufacturers doing. There's so many of them now, and then others are just elect to plug straight in the system and have it back to the fallback wedge. So
Or go in ears.
or in ears, stuff like that. I've stepped away from the digital stuff, except for I do like the 2-note stuff. The 2-note stuff allows me to use like a tube amp or my favourite amp, and to use a speaker IRs, and that kind of like leaves the flavour there for me.
Yep.
After working on so much tech stuff, you get sick of knobs and stuff like that. A simple amp excites me more than a complex piece of computer, and that's not to discredit what they do. There's some really cool stuff out there.
Absolutely.
The Fractal audio stuff is great. The Kempler stuff is great. Head Rush,
Helix.
the Helix.
Helix,
it all serves a purpose. And it's what you get used to. For me, what works, I like my amps and the tones. I like the 2-note gear. The 2-note gear is what I fall back onto all the time.
Have you guys seen the a Dutch amplifier by Hook? Have you guys seen that?
No.
So
What's it called?
Hook amplifier, as in like fish hook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as in what's his chips are the trick? All right, there we go. And what he's developed is it's a valve amplifier, but the dials are MIDI controlled. So when you hit the button, it actually just dimes the amp, but it's a valve amp. But so it's just like a remote control pair of 12 hands.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, pair and 12 don't actually go together.
Digital control's been around for ages. This afternoon, actually, when you tried to contact me, I was calibrating a Mesobuga tri-axis.
As you do.
I was cutting a neck blank out so I could.
You told me you're out shopping.
He's doing real
and
stuff.
I was tracking on this custom made guitar. So yeah,
there you go.
Wow.
That's a bang guitar, that one.
Yeah. We'll get Remco on soon, but yeah, he built that. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Sorry. Keep going, Brendan. What were you saying?
So, like MIDI control and electronic control and amplifiers, it's been actually around for quite some time. It's just been brought into the market now, a little bit more presentable. Nice big screen.
It's technology, control. Brendan. That we keep. Every 18 months we're doubling. When I first started, for instance, sorry to butt in, but when I first started working with James Rain 5 years ago, Bergs was using the early Axe effects, and it was good. And that's all he was using. He was just running straight out into front of house and into fallback. Joshy was struggling with having backline amps and trying to get his sound. But when Axe 2 came out, Joshy moved over to Axe 2. And he pretty much now just tours with what's known as the Axe 3, Axe FX 3. And, they have a sound, they have a particular feel. I worked with a double bill of James Rain's band and Rose Tattoo when the Tats were still using own custom made. Di was using a Marshall, which he blew up one of my Marshalls. But anyway, it melted. Thank you, Di. And Bob had his own thing, and so the difference was that with the Tats, because they got the same management, the Tats were pushing all their sound off the back of stage, where with James and his band, it was all coming up through foldback. But since then, Di now uses Kemper, the powered Kemper, so he's still trying to push from the back of stage. Bob,
okay.
Yeah, Bob is using Axe 3, but he's using the rack top, so it's all the rack mount stuff.
Yep.
And he's using a powered wedge to his left. So Gary, or Angry as people know him, Angry Anderson can hear. And
Angry.
he's also got one. Yeah, well, I mean, I've worked with these guys for years. And he also has one behind him, so the punters in the front row can hear. You know, the front row bogans, the FRBs. I mean, they are a family within the Australian rock industry, really. Front row bogans. So these guys and these musos are trying to accommodate not only to what technology is bringing them, but also what the front row bogans need.
Front row bogans.
Yeah, well, no, you go on Facebook and you type in FRB front row bogans, and there is a national group of front row bogans.
That's a great name for a band. FRB. The only problem is,
I'm a member of the front row bogans, but the only difference is I'm always looking at the front row bogans. I'm not a member of the front row bogans. You know, so I get to see them from the side of stage. Yeah.
So, can I ask about Angry Anderson? In his foldback wedge, does he prefer to have, because I know some artists have a set of monitors just for their vocal and then other monitors for the rest of the band. I actually got to meet Steve Tyler's sound guy on the road when I was in the States. And Steve, Aerosmith has two sound guys, one for the band and one for Steve.
One for Steve, yep, that's right.
Yeah, and I was like, seriously, what? Why do they just need you? And I kid you not, he had to go and configure and check the sound of two systems.
For Steve.
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Right, okay, cool. So just asking, what when Angry Anderson is doing his thing, what does he require?
Well, the most important thing is he wants to hear his voice, but he wants it really mid-scooped. He doesn't want a boomy mid, because obviously, it's about his hearing. He doesn't want it to be boomy. He wants it to be really clear. He wants to be able to hear enough without overwhelming him of drums and bass.
Okay.
Because Mark Evans is there. You know, Mark's playing, but the thing is, these guys are still not using in-ears. They're still using monitors.
Right, so old school, yeah.
Old school, you know, it's old school rock and roll. You know, it's all on the back of the stage, and that's partly why Di and Bob have turned around and said, okay, we're going to use technology now because we want consistency of sound no matter where we are.
Paddy. Yep.
But we still want the old school rock and roll.
Yep.
And they push off the stage. So as long as he doesn't have a really mid-heavy sound and it's really mid-scooped, Angry's really happy with anything. He's such the nicest guy, really. I'm not pissing in his boots. He's such the nicest guy. He and I have had lengthy conversations before, after, during gigs. I've never been yelled at by him, but I've been yelled at by other artists. Anyway.
Okay, well,
your stories about never meet your heroes.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not eating
Even if they weren't my heroes in the first place, they just dropped a whole new level.
Yeah.
So if we go back to Brendan, then Brendan, about the amps that you've been working on. So we were getting back to some of the touring acts have. That's my auntie. Hello, Auntie Patty. There you go. That's not awkward, but no, just kidding. Actually, hope you're safe and well. Haven't seen you for a while, so I hope you're safe and well. So my auntie actually, when I was a kid, she played guitar, and I used to play the same rhythm over and over. These days, I play very complicated rhythms, but so when I was 13, my auntie kicked my ass and said, you better learn how to play rhythm guitar properly. So thanks, Auntie Patty. Anyway,
right.
back to what we're talking about, digital versus analog on tour for a lot of touring bands. So we just got passed up to the digital stuff, so the powered speakers. So, what is the most common valve concepts? Because I know that a lot of name brand guitarists, I'm talking top shelf, maybe like what's his name? I should know. Paul Gilbert. He's gone to Marshall now. I'm sure he's been using Marshalls forever, but even Satriani. A lot of these guys use things like, I guess it's the old Toyota theory. Well, I'm a Toyota fan, I guess, but you can get parts everywhere and everyone knows how to fix it, right? So I'm just asking. So this is the long question.
No.
So for repairability, Fender and Marshall, there's no doubt.
Right.
Fender and Marshall nowadays, the parts are a little bit harder to get generically because they're using parts which are sourced just for them.
Okay, right.
So you could say anything up to mid 2000s, was easy to source, and now it's starting to get a little bit cheap. It's probably about the best word to put for it. So I always like a hand wired amp, the best, because you can repair it for years to come. As for sound quality, it's debatable. Usually with hand wired amps, the parts are generally better quality. So as opposed to like a Chinese PCB, a printed circuit board made in China where they source local parts. Now, that's not discrediting some of the Chinese builds. Some of them are quite good, but for traditional parts,
Toronto's works well.
That's right. That's right.
Because
you're saying it's built in China. Oh man.
Generally, German, UK, and American amps are the way to go. So there's what I use personally. I like my old Marshall. I actually use stereotone amplifiers as well. The stereotone made in Malaysia. Absolutely beautifully made amps.
So can you say that again? Zero tone, is it?
Stereotone.
Oh, right.
With a
Clearly,
T.
my headphones are working.
Stereotones. They're a kit amp.
Oh wow! Okay, cool. Oh yeah, right. Well, yes, of course.
Great. I've got a stereotone JTM 45, which put it up against a vintage 66 JTM 45. I would doubt you would hear the difference.
Yeah, wow.
It's so beautiful. It's so clean. It's so crisp. It's warm. It's just got that girth to it. A single note, single coil sounding instrument. Strat style or whatever. It just has that girth that a lot of other amps don't have. They're beautiful. Stereotone are great.
Well, you can get them. You can get them pre-built, so you can get them. You can order them as a whole amp, and the build quality is just fantastic.
Or you can get Brendan to build them for you.
They're even better.
Okay.
I hear people talk about Two Rock and all the American boutique amps, but when you see Two Rock versus a stereotone, the stereotone build is just beautiful. Metropolis,
and it's hand wired. It's turret board. Like it's turret board, man. It's not PCB. It's turret board.
Can you explain for those people who might not know what's turret board?
Okay, so basically you've got a board and you place these poles, which are known as turrets, in, and then you hand wire every little bit of componentry across those turrets.
Okay, so
it's a very nicely isolated board with a circuit that is built that can be easily replaced, repaired, upgraded, and modified.
Yeah, wow. Okay, cool.
With
they're beautiful
amps,
stuff. I've built a couple of them.
Yeah, right. Okay, the stereotone.
Yeah.
So people ask me, and I'll post it on my website.
What is your website?
Sound Evolutions. Just Google Sound Evolutions, and it will come up.
Okay.
And but the difference between modern amps and say a vintage or even a boutique hand wired amplifier. So you go out and spend a couple of grand on, say, a Marshall, whatever's on the shop at the time. Say it's a JVM or whatever, and it's got a given lifespan. The parts are harder to replace. So when I get a Marshall in and it needs a component replacement, might have to pull out the whole thing to pieces. So the repair bill can be a lot higher, say, than a vintage amp or point-to-point wide amp, with turret ports. So the work can be that amp initial cost may be higher.
Thanks, Scully. Yep.
But you'll have it for years to come.
Right. So initial cost outweighs maintenance cost and has a longer lifespan.
Got it.
But
absolutely.
That's it. Yep.
Absolutely.
And do you have your own brand of amplifier, Brendan? Or is it just custom made?
He should because he's a guru. No, he's a guru.
So here's a question for you. I got to see a Dumble amp in real life when I was in the States, but I don't know enough about pulling them apart to understand what I'm looking at. So I'm just asking, maybe Brendan, what is the magic? So those who don't know about a Dumble amp, if you Google it, it's this the holy grail of amplifiers. This guy, Mr. Dumble, built or modified. Most of them were like Fender amps, weren't they? And anyway, what makes them so magic? What does he do?
Dumble amps. I like the Triple S, which is a steel string slinger.
Yeah, steel string slinger. Yep.
It's a big, clean, powerful amp. They've done a few recreations of different amps over the years. Some of the
like
Santana
a
sound. The Santana, that high gain, smooth type of tone.
Okay.
They're big transformers in them. Just a big, powerful, clean sound.
And, you go.
And it's quality of components. I mean, important is quality of components.
Right. Okay. Which comes back to the initial concept of design, right? Design before you build. 80% planning, 20% execution,
planning, 20% doing. Exactly right. You'll go to the head of the class.
Oh, excellent!
Amp right now.
So, in my amp collection, I have this one amp. Actually, I should have actually brought it in. It's a 10 watt. It's called a Daisy Cutter. It's made in Canada. As far as I'm aware, that the EQ circuit is right at the end. So it's been gained. It's only got one valve in it. It's only 10 watt, and it does something called power amp clipping or distortion. And it sounds phenomenal. I just crank it all up. It is still way too loud through a quad box, and it's only 10 amps. And
10 watts.
10 watts.
10 watts. Thank you, Chris.
You need one of these, buddy.
Okay, cool. Anyway, I'm just wondering, this guy, sorry, get the story straight. So this guy called Phase Amplifiers, what he's done, which I haven't seen done before, he's got a menu of circuits. And so he sort of clones a circuit and does his own spin on it, like the Corona circuit, no pun intended, was where actually Fender is in America.
Yep.
So there's nothing to do with the coronavirus.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's
south
called
of Wuhan.
Yeah. So anyway, he will build a 2-channel head, and you can pick your circuits off the menu. So I'm just asking Brendan, what would your 2 favorite circuits be for a clean and a dirty circuit?
Good question.
I'm a JCM 800 fan. I love JCM 800s.
Yep.
But I also like the old, Basemans, Fender Basemans, anything up to a 59, through the 60s, some of the old blackface Basemans. I like that big, warm, clean tone, but I like the JCM 800 grinds,
JCM 800 with the master volume.
Yeah, yes.
Is that
It's got to be master volume. Yeah, my 50 watt 2205 master volume. John Brewster from the Angels.
Thanks for the name drop, mate. Name drop. Yeah, cool.
Absolutely loves that amp. Rick Brewster from the Angels. Absolutely loves that amp. When they're up here, before they went over to modelling. It was a fight, and I used to love the fight. I used to want to see who came out less blood, who got my amp, because that was, that's part of my guitar teching / stage managing service is they can use my gear.
Was that the same I was trying to get off you with the certain Les Paul that we were talking about?
Well, there's a certain Les Paul that John Brewster does use, yes. It's a 2014 what they call an R8, 1958 reissue. That is quite coveted. If you ever have a look at my page and you see a cherry burst Les Paul, that's mine with John playing it. He's been playing it for years.
Yeah, right. The I'm trying to be interactive and trying to be funny at the same time, but I'm just too slow with typing. So anyway,
Leave the comedy to the professional.
that's the name drop. Comedy, 30 seconds too late. So with I actually have a 2204 Marshall head 50 watt.
Okay.
It's completely stock standard. It
What
took
year?
me 1983.
Cool.
83. Yep.
Yeah, apparently it's a good one.
Fuck yeah.
It's
He's great. Yeah.
right. So it's at the beginning of the early 80s. So I'm still learning about the sweet spots because I didn't know with manufacturing. I thought a unit is a unit is a unit is a unit, but apparently not.
Not with Marshall.
So-
not with Marshall. Not with
Right.
Marshall.
So depending on, it's not just the brand or the unit number. It's you have certain special dates. Say, hey, between these two, these are the holy grail. These are not so much.
You got it.
Yeah. So
Chevrolet's made a lot of cars, and they've all got the same size engines, and a lot of them do.
Talk to that bloke, Chris, and because he's a bit of an avid amp collector, and talk to this bloke because he's an avid amp repairer and builder.
He's got more than me.
You know. But
It's funny.
the reality is, it's like amps are like guitars. There are those sweet spot times. Like for instance, and 2014 for my R8 Les Paul, it was builder's select. So when I worked overseas for 5 years in a custom shop, and I used to look after a collector's.
are you allowed to say? Are you allowed to say what shop it was?
Not really.
Okay.
No,
That's
but
good.
I used to look after a
No
collector's.
name drop. That's right.
No name drop. Sorry, I don't do that. I can't say what custom shop I work for. Radio.
Okay.
But I used to also look after a collector's original 58 and 59 burst.
Whoa! I actually
So
played a 59 once. Yeah, that's cool.
No, well, I used to play it more than once.
Oh, okay. Name drop. So okay.
Right. But when I came across my particular R8, it surpassed both the 58 and 59.
Oh, in between sonically and
Sonically
visually
and the feel,
kind of,
just the feel,
right.
the feel, and like everything, the weight, the balance, the feel of the neck. There was something special about this, and it didn't matter. I would have sold both kidneys to get this guitar.
You still wouldn't have had enough.
And I still have it, and I'll never ever sell it. You know?
Wow.
I've got children to sell before then.
So we should get to Chris. Like Chris, can you tell us of your expertise, especially with manufacturing?
Oh well, not a lot to be said. Just
a lot to be said, but not a lot.
No, not really.
Well, actually, this is maybe a little sidetrack, but are we allowed to mention the COVID-19 work that you're doing?
Oh yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. Give me 1 sec. Let me just grab one thing.
Okay,
that's why he's got that. That's why he's got that beard. It collects all COVID-19, and then he washes it out at the end of the night.
Well, I'll let you explain it, but this is legendary stuff. So people who are watching, please share this because Chris is actually making something for the people on the front line. I'll let you explain, Chris.
Yeah. So all these are. I've got a couple of 3D printers that I prototype. Basically, make things out of plastic before I make them out of something real.
Just have to hold it still.
So this is just a 3D printed what we call them is an ear saver or a or a buckle for your face masks. So what these poor buggers, all the nurses and all the frontline people, probably doing 12, 16 hour a day shifts, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You might not think of it, but I think it's a bit like Chinese water torture. They've got these, they've got the face protection on, and by probably the third or fourth day of having these on constantly, their ears are red raw. So all these is to basically get the elastic off the back of your ears, just to give you a bit of relief. So
wrap it around the back of the head, is it?
Yeah, basically it goes around there, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Any nurses or anyone who wants them, just get in contact with us. I'm paying postage. We're paying postage. We're just sending them out for free. So anyone who needs them, we drop some off at the local hospitals.
He's the real deal, this guy. Real deal.
Yeah, this is amazing, man. This is amazing.
Victoria, we put a whole bunch into Victoria, down to the Alfred and stuff. There's a whole bunch of people. We've advertised them just on my wife's little Facebook hobby page sort of thing, and that's had a pretty strong response. But anyone
that's why he hasn't shaved his beard, because he hasn't had time. He's doing real stuff.
Yeah, well, you should say how many hours. Sorry, Chris.
They take just under an hour to print. So I wouldn't go throwing them in the sterilizer, because the heat would probably deform them, because they're made out of PLA or PETG, depending on what I've got. You can't be fussy on colours. Just suck it up. They're free. But if anyone, but if Brendan wants one, it's going to be pink. But any of this stuff, So if anyone wants one, just contact. I'm not hard to find, and we'll just send you one. It's not going to cost you. Just don't. Don't abuse it. Don't abuse the system.
How do they get in contact with you, Chris?
If you jump on the organised flock page, which is my wife's little hobby page she makes.
Full website? What's the full website?
There's no website. It's just on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. What's it called again?
The Organised Flock.
The Organised.
With an S spelled correctly. Yep.
With an S. Organised Flock.
And if you're a medic or anyone who needs one of these or think that could help them or whatever the case may be,
frontline
get in contact with Michelle and my wife, and we'll just put one in the mail for you.
I tell you what, man, that's amazing. That's to actually try and make
ones. This is my design. It's a variation of a very common design, though.
Yeah, so that's cool, but there's a massive need for them. Yeah, there's a massive need for them.
If you think you can help, you can hit us up and we'll send you one. No charge, just get on with it. And thanks to their help.
That's amazing. So what? Sorry, you go. Who was Brendan?
The frontline workers appreciate any thought that can be provided, and care, because it's pretty lonely at the front.
They're all legends. They're all legends.
Yeah.
Well, Brendan's oldest daughter, Rhodes, she's just about to be thrown under the bus, the poor buggers. So they're fast tracking her, aren't they? You want to tell us a little bit about what Rhodes is doing, Brendan?
Yeah, she's first day with the Ambos today. So.
Wow.
We'll find out now. She's been qualified for a time, but she's done the final training steps with the Ambos. So we'll find out when I pick her up tonight. So a day, I imagine it'll be full on. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, wow. And so, Chris, what do you do musically related when you're not helping save the world?
Look, I'm basically, how do I put it? I'm a well-known nobody that no one's ever heard of.
So, what's your interest in?
He goes to DRW Custom Guitars and Sound Evolutions for his work.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. Okay, then.
So he's mixing in similar circles.
Well, if you need an engineering problem sorted out, Chris is the guy to go to.
He's an engineer.
Chris is an engineer, yeah.
There's a little bit of...
he's the anal
Thanks, Peter.
Engineer.
Right.
I'm a little bit... I have been known to be a little bit fussy. So if anyone can understand something, it's...
Hang on, I just said anal, not fussy.
But that's what the 80% rule's for, Dwight. I can sit here, drink and ponder and think it's all good.
So, what's in your guitar and amp collection then, Chris? What's in your guitar and amp collection?
Look, I've got a few toys. Some stuff I don't like to go into. I don't like to go into specifics, but that's probably a good subject. Actually, if we segue into that, I won't go into the other boys know what I'm talking about. But let's start another subject. Let's talk about highly collectible guitars.
Yep.
Okay.
Not necessarily a 59 Les Paul, but let's just say sort of the next sort of level down. Than a
58 or a 60.
To fret or to refret or not to refret? That is the question.
Okay. Lay it on me, brother.
I like Yamaha guitars, old Yamaha guitars.
Yeah.
Yes,
Acoustic
great.
guitar, old Yamaha acoustic guitars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my Yamaha Super Flighter and the Studio Lord, which is a Les Paul copy, they're two great guitars. Really.
Is that from the lawsuit era? Is that from the lawsuit era? 77 to 82?
Yeah, the Studio Lord would be. Yep, it would be. Yep.
I always thought Super Flighter was a mispronunciation, but no, that's what they call it, Super Flighter. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad told
okay.
My dad told me that Eagle tires were always Eager tires. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I'm serious. Super Flighter is actually what it's called.
Yeah, I'm serious too. Yeah.
No.
So what about Dwight? What's your favorite collectible guitar?
Cheap collectible guitar.
Give me 1 second.
I've got my favourite. Okay, let's focus on that word, favourite. My favourite would be the guitar that I still to today, some 30 odd years later, called First Wife, and that is it's an original 1987 first run Strat Plus.
Okay.
With Don Lace's hand wound gold lace sensor pickups.
Yeah, wow.
The black dot Spursel lock-in tuners and the Wilkinson titanium roller nut. It's I've had it for over 30 years. It was never released in Australia. It was a guitar that was only a particular colour because it was early '87 or mid '87 when they started remanufacturing Corona just south of Wuhan.
Oh man.
And it's been with me. It's toured all of most of Australia.
Right.
I haven't been to the
yes,
to the north end.
Ibanez Blazer. Wow.
It's been overseas. I've toured and worked overseas with that guitar. It's still like it's Chevrolet green, which is now similar to surf green, but it's not quite because it's a car Juco, so it's aged and it's coloured.
Yeah.
Well, it's been with me for over 30 years, so it really has been what I call first wife. My wife doesn't really respect that comment, but being my first wife. But
well, I've been scrubbing my hands so hard recently that I think I could smell my first girlfriend.
Oh my God. Oh my Lord. Well, I do have some other people waiting in the wings here. We've got Remco and Kevie. I'm just going to pop them on about talking about collectible guitars. So I'll just chuck them on. And hang on, Chris. We'll just get you to show it in a sec. There we go. And hey, Remco and Kev. Chris, if you just bring your guitar up again, man, and I'll just make you be the main man for a second. Here we go. It's all you, Chris.
This would be my baby.
Yep. And what are we looking at here? For the viewers at home.
Well, for those in the know, can tell what the headstock, where the eye is and everything.
Absolutely.
Oh, Where is the eye?
Ouch.
Is that a Chipson?
You know that's all he can afford.
Oh.
Check the Chibson volute in the back.
Yeah,
Oh.
hang on, there it is. There it isn't. Look, there's your chips and volute.
Excellent.
Lovely backs.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
Not
All right.
broken yet.
Okay. Very good, man.
and that's not a reissue.
Right.
Look-
Oh, that's the real deal. What year are we looking at?
Let me put it this way: it's 2 weeks different to my birthday. So
Right. 1901. Holy
I
crap.
didn't realise they made Les Pauls in the 20s.
Okay. So here we have Remco and Kev. So Kev's an amazing bass player, and Remco actually we'll just get Dwight's guitar up. Here we go, Dwight. Your turn.
His first wife. Okay, I
First
don't know how well that shows up.
Yeah, just move it slowly. That's all. Just nice and slow. Just move slowly. There we go. Maybe a little bit faster than that. Slowly.
44.
Yep. Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's 1984. That's an 87.
All right. That's your favorite collectible guitar.
Look, I've got others, but this one means the most because even in my times of absolute abstract poverty, I've sold everything else except for this.
Yep. Okay.
So that makes this one. You know, I've had this for over 30 years, man.
Wow.
When I first started, these pickups were white.
You got some shout outs there from Andrew to Dwight.
These pickups have played at my first gig at my very first big gig to over 45,000 people.
Whoa.
Wow.
Oh yeah, who was
That's
playing it for you?
Send him back to the dancers corner.
Oh right, okay. So
this is my 1987 all original except for the pickguard strap plus.
that's
Wow.
awesome, man. I like it. I like it. So we got Remco here builds guitars and hardware. So Remco, do you have any questions to an amp builder, Brendan, and actually you know Chris as well?
Well, I haven't met Chris yet. But Chris was commenting, was it yesterday or the day before when you were in the chat? It was yesterday, I think, yeah?
About SolidWorks.
Yeah.
How'd you get on
Early
to
online as well.
the software? I was out of there by then. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would like to catch up with Chris and talk SolidWorks stuff, of course.
Mhm.
You know, that's always
I'm
good.
more of a Fusion 360 guy these days, to be frank.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people try to move to it, but it's not my cup of tea so far.
Yeah, it's different, especially when you're halfway through. Sort of, you think you're almost there, and then the bastards change everything on you. It's basically starting again. So that was a bit of a
Yeah, or all of a sudden you're gonna go like, shit, I can't go online.
it's all part of fun.
Yeah, because
So-
it's all work in the cloud stuff, and I don't really like
Yeah.
that. I like to have everything
No,
on my
I'm not a
computer.
fan of it either. But it has its advantages for me. But I can very much so understand why you don't like it.
So
Yeah, but you know a lot about SolidWorks, so apparently what Doc told me.
No, that'd be someone else.
I
somebody
thought
else.
you were the SolidWorks guru.
No, not me.
Oh, whoops.
Not him.
Sorry.
All right then. See you later.
So
But
I was going to.
but I do. If you've got a specific issue or a question, mate of mine on the other side of things, he will know the answer to it. So
Cool. Because I've got a problem that I'm running into in designing, but that's all technical stuff, and I'm gonna put it here.
yeah, we primarily use one CNC, but we do a bit of SolidWorks on that side. But I'll leave that to him.
Yeah, well, because I design everything off the ground from SolidWorks.
Yeah.
And then put everything together, and then send the files to my guys in China, who manufacture and everything. Then because so far we can't make that here, which is a shame.
It is. But on the flip side of that coin, it all comes down to, and that probably segues into another touchy subject at the moment. By the way, hi Kevie. The local, there's been a lot of fluff about the Australian by Australian and the Australian made, you know, all the links that are coming up on Facebook, which is well and good as long as someone actually does something about that or continues with it. You know, unfortunately, don't want to get philosophical here, but our culture, we are so apathetic and forgiving. You know, like in 6 months' time, after this is all over, it'll be, oh yeah, you know, it all happened, but we're on to it. We'll be back buying stuff from, you know, whatever overseas.
Oh, you know, but it's also then, you know, are they willing to pay the extra dollars for it?
That's the thing.
You know, because as I had this discussion with somebody else the other day, everything has to be cheaper. And then you're going to go, well, that's why it has to come from other countries. You know, we can't do this.
Dead on, mate. And that's what the people have got to, if we want to do it, we've got to pay the price. Now, it's only after an amount of time and when we're supplying for everyone and when the cost comes down. But until Joe Public decides to, you know, dig deep, you know, the first place that's with the farmers instead of the conglomerates, you know, paying this $1 a litre for milk and $1 for bread. But anyway, we're changing the subject.
We are.
But it's all related, and that's the fun part of it, you know. So I actually would like to catch up with you and you sit down and have a coffee or a beer, you know, one day.
From a distance, of course, 2 meters.
Oh, well, we are close, so we can make it closer.
So maybe, Kev, do you have a question about guitar amp related material? Because I know that you like to. I know you like to roast your amplifier a few times.
Oh yeah, I love it.
You got any ideas about?
Here he is.
Oh, we got more. Got more. What's this one? Here we go. What are we looking at here? What are we looking at here, man?
2014.
All right.
Custom Shop R8.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one John Brewster uses all the time.
Oh, wow. Sensational.
Pretty. What's the neck profile like on that, Dwight?
Oh,
baseball bat or?
No, it's a bit slimmer than baseball bat, but it's girthy.
Baseball bat's an official measurement, right?
It is.
Yeah,
it is
right.
from that era. Yep. Of Les Paul.
It's girthy, but it's absolutely spot on. Like I said, I used to maintain a collector's original 58 and 59 burst, and this is the one that takes the cake. This beats both of those hands down.
Wow.
Playability, neck, sound. You know, it does. It's you know, when I first met it, I went, wow. I didn't think.
Where did you meet this guitar? Does it have a name?
Yeah, it does. This is Cherry.
Cherry.
No, I didn't meet it at a shop.
Oh.
There's a guy down in Melbourne, a friend of mine called Bryce Skidmore.
Yep.
Everyone knows Bryce. Yeah.
That's my mum. Everyone say hello to mum.
He's a Gibson.
Hello, Bryce.
A Gibson aficionado, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
And he and I have done some wheeling and dealing over the years.
Yeah.
And I had a particular guitar that was quite unique, and he had this guitar that the owner didn't like because it had a fat neck, according to him. And
my mum knows a lot about guitars. Yeah.
Well, clearly his vision.
Thanks, mum. She's got a sense of humour too. That's good.
Well, she had you. She had to have a sense of humour.
And as you can see with the Builders Select 2014, it was the 120th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. So the Builders actually selected their timber, and it was a custom shop. They actually built their guitar. So this is one of their builders' dream guitar, and it's just like I can't discredit it. You know, John Brewster, when he first played it, John when he first played it a few years back, he said, "I've got to have this guitar. How much is it? How much are you going to sell it to him for?" And I said, "Not for sale, man. It's just the way life is." Oh, and years later, he still says, he'll ring me up. "Oh, you know, Dwight, we're coming up next week. Are you going to have that guitar?" And I love John. You know, John is just, look, the everyone in that band, John, Rick, Sam, Nick, Dave, they are all class. Okay, don't think that they're anything other than that. I'm also great friends with the band that are the Screaming Jets. So don't get me wrong.
What does Bob
So-
Spencer think of it, though? More importantly,
They're both class bands, class people. But John has been in love with this guitar for years, and I keep telling him, you will never, ever, ever. It's got such. Look at the flame.
Wow.
It's so subtle. You know, I don't like a big gaudy PRS flame, even though I
Yeah,
love
right.
PRS guitars.
oh, that hurts, Dwight.
So,
McCartney, you're rolling in his grave right now to hear that.
Yes.
So, oh, he's off again. Okay, I'll just bump him out for a
I
second.
got a question
Okay.
for Brendan, actually.
No, it's show and tell.
So-
He'll be back this week.
So,
Well, I got this I want to show Chris. There you go,
Yeah.
mate. Look.
Oh, you got the pickups.
Oh yeah,
Hang on.
yeah.
hang on,
All go away.
do it again, Kev. Do it again.
Ah. And what are they again, Kevie? What do they come out of again?
74 p.
Yep.
There you go, mate. I've got them
Thanks,
here.
fella.
Plastic bag with your name on it.
Yep. We will catch up probably not soon, but anyway.
So,
That's more like a Jack Daniels virus, I reckon, more than a coronavirus.
Hey, if I could ask Brendan, was it all right that he just said that he was working on a Mesa Boogie Tri-X?
yeah.
Yes,
I'll just
yeah.
I'll just
Wow,
put
not
Brendan on in
already.
a sec. Sorry, Brendan. I'll just be 1 sec while Dwight finishes his
Nice.
show and tell.
1999,
Chibson.
1960 classic. Huh?
There we go.
1999 classic.
Oh, blue
Good
flame.
colour. Good colour. What's that? It's hard to see in the. Is that
That was
tobacco
my
or
first band.
honey? Or tea?
Well,
What is it?
I don't, it's aged. It's 20 odd years old, man. It keeps changing colour every year.
Oh, wow. Very good.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
well, I
depends on
know.
who can vote it in.
So, Remco, you got a question for Brendan?
Brendan.
Yeah, regarding the Mesa Boogie Tri-X's, I've got one in my
Yep.
Wreck of Doom. I will. Hold on, I've got to put the lights on so you can see it.
Okay. Yeah, we will
there
make
we
it
go.
bigger. Just move your camera slowly. Just slowly. There we go.
Ooh, the Wreck of Doom.
Yeah, the Wreck
Looks
of
like a
Doom with
fridge.
the pedal board.
Fridge.
Ooh,
It's a
yeah.
bar fridge without beers. But what I've got with my Tri-X, it's that I don't know if it's age or anything, because I've got the thing already in there for many years, and that rack has changed over the years with how I wire everything and all that. So I can't remember how it sounded 20 years ago. But are these amplifiers, the preamps, noisy from the set go already, or is it because the thing is so old I have to set it to you and do your magic on it? And noisy, I mean, you got this constant. It's more like a ground loop, but it's not a ground loop. It's kind of a humming in there.
It's probably filter caps for the age. Filter caps are common when you get hummed and weird overtones and stuff like that. The one I've just servicing today, it's probably 10 years old, I suppose, and all the tubes checked out fine. But this particular unit had a level drop in certain modes, and the units have got to be calibrated. When they get old, there's actually a calibration process. We were talking earlier on about electronic and MIDI control. Well, the Tri-Axis uses electronic control. That's why you can use the fancy buttons at the front, push it up and down, the bass, treble, middle, gain, and all that. But the parts inside there drift out of tolerance. So there's a setup procedure to set them all up again. So the one I've just worked on today, when I opened up, the thing I discovered with it was the capacitors. The capacitors, when they get old, they leak. And this one had leaked all over the board, and all the acid had rotted the tracks out. So it was a bit of repair work. So when these like Mesa Boogies or any amp actually, when they start getting on a bit, 10 years plus, Caps are usually the biggest thing that causes the most.
All right, because this one is at least older than 10 years. The model is one of the first series of the Tri-X's, so it's actually worthwhile to get it to you. So
yeah, so I'm still in the middle of fixing the issue on this thing. I've fixed all the damage now, but with the stereo output on this particular unit I'm working on, one channel is lower output than the other. So it's just a matter of going through and finding out what's gone down and working the way through it. They're a complicated preamp. They sound
so good. They sound so good. It's just, as I said, I've got this problem, and it's also the balancing, what you said. With certain effects units, what I run in there, the balance is different as well, depending on the unit that feeds it.
Yeah, and that'll be a calibration too. Calibration should solve that problem. This unit I've got now is very quiet. It's actually extremely quiet. So for noise levels, I'll get some in which are really noisy than others which are quiet. And I think it's luck of the draw on what components you happen to get on the day. It's like why does one amplifier sound better than another one? And they're meant to be the same. There's always variation in components and transformers and stuff like that. And how many Marshalls I'll get through here, and you'll get the 1 out of 10, which just sounds amazingly good, and you said, "I wish that was mine," So,
right.
And the same goes with Messer as well.
And get my amp serviced, and just to get it looked at.
But all the time, with probably the Messer Boogie Tri-X, they're very mentally challenging because the service manual is quite in depth for the unit. So it's a good time to get me now because it's all in my head now. So
well, exactly. So what I was meant to, I was like, well, I better pick him straight away now because he's still, up to specs with his Messer Boogie.
We'll call it the Tri-Axis COVID-19 month.
Well, it's funny because, with my big refrigerator there, with the gear, it's like once you got it in there, you don't want to take it out.
Oh,
and the last thing what you do is like, it needs to be serviced. Now, about 4 months ago, I've got a TC Electronic 2290 delay unit in there. And I put the machine on, like the big power supply on, and it did not light up. And I just shit myself. I was like, holy fuck, that's an expensive unit, and you can't get them anymore. So I reset everything, checked everything out.
Well, expensive when you buy it.
Because you can't get them anymore, Doc. So I got it serviced, and it turns out that inside in the back there's a little valve, which it doesn't say in the menu. And it was just changing the valve, and back to life again. It was like,
and you still cleaned your pants, though.
Yeah,
it's clean now.
Cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was going to ask Brendan, when you're servicing some amplifiers of some description, you don't have a schematic, especially these days some of the companies have actually packed up shop, and if you can't find it on the net, do you have a process or an electronic version of stuff to reverse engineer the circuit to try and work at the values of the resistors or the diodes, etc., to backward engineer? Sorry,
that's how in the early days before internet and connections with company, the hard yards were to basically null it out yourself. So from when I was young, I just had to work on stuff. And teach myself all the concepts, and after a while you develop all the concepts that all these companies use. There's a pattern. A lot of them are copied off each other and or variations, but there's always the same style. And after a while you learn, you get to recognize certain styles. You get to also recognize certain builds, and the engineer styles as well, the people who build them and their concepts. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you plug something into it and you want to get something out to it. So, if I got an unknown, I set up on the test bench, I plug whatever into it, usually a test signal, and I find how far that test signal goes, and then I'll just work from there. So, that's probably the most basic explanation of what I do.
Yeah,
That's
right.
cool, man.
Not another unlike yourself, mate. Not a reissue. See, this is what a real one looks like.
All right, there we go. What are we looking at here, Chris?
That's a 78 custom.
I thought you were going to get rid of that one.
Oh, hell no. No, I got rid of the Supreme. That was the one I was trying to get Dwight's
I'd crack
800 out of him
Chris,
for.
I'd crack out my original 65, the Deluxe SG, but you know.
It's an SG. It doesn't count.
Fair enough.
No one uses those.
So here's an amplifier question for maybe most of you. Do you guys like to have lots of gain or not so much? And maybe for Dwight, because you have experience with the touring, all these touring artists, what do guys usually dime their amps at, the gain structure? Or not? Do you still have Dwight?
I think he's frozen. I think he's
frozen.
Look at him. He's still.
He's in a Disney. It's in a Disney movie right now. He's in Frozen.
Well, the problem with that question, Doug, is bass players and guitarists are different fish, mate.
I didn't even know they were fish.
Yeah, but they're all tuners.
He was on me. I was just making sure you're not in the house.
If someone can please message Dwight, if that's cool, to say he can come back on. Well, I think someone might be on now. Someone. Yeah, sorry. Keep going. Device not connected, Dwight. If you can hear me, device not. I think he's either gone flat battery.
Flat battery. That's what it looks like.
Or is there a different fish? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
It could be.
So what was the question again, Doug? Going high gain or not? With your amps?
Maybe for Brendan, you know, when you're actually working on amplifiers of some descript,
it's funny when you start. When I was young, everything was high gain. Everything was wind onto 10. And then as you get older, that gain comes down, and you'd like to think that you're playing better with skill. So for me, the old high gain pickups, they're all gone. It's all low gain stuff now. I keep on resorting to amps like the JCM 800 and slightly less, because, man, all the roots of rock that we've listened to, you know, especially Aussie rock, you know, the JCM 800 was a mainstay. It's
right.
I mean, that just bold, awesome, you know, tone. And what gets me when you hear, you know, like Angus saying that he plays relatively clean, you know, which he does, and Malcolm was even cleaner, you know, when you listen to the tone. But when it's recorded, it's got that real push sound. It's a lot of the tricks of getting a fat tone recorded is actually less gain. The more gain it gets up, unless you're a solo guitarist, maybe if you're, you know, a high, even when you look at Gilbert play, you know, he's got so many different tones, from subtle low gains to full tilt. But it's all in the style. So for chugging away and rock bands and stuff like that, I think low gain, it gives a lot more impact.
Okay.
And then you control it with pedals. It's like a lot of what Paul Gilbert does. They all
Yeah,
low gain, clean sound, and then distortion pedals in front of it.
Yeah, right. And that's my next. There we go. Here we're back. So Dwight, question to you: what do the Aussie touring artists that you've been experienced with, how do they gain structure their amplifiers with the gain? Flat out or not so much?
No, not so much, because they even it doesn't matter about the size of the gig. It's still about stage volume, because a lot of the stages are so live that everything gets picked up through the vocal mics. So, for instance, when I'm working with the Angels, I literally can't hear John on the other side of the stage if I'm on Rick's side, or vice versa. I can't hear Rick from the other side of the stage when I'm on John's side, and that goes the same with the Tats. It goes the same with JR's band. baby animals are a little bit different when I work with them because they are Susie is and Dave are both using Axe effects as effects pedals. They're not using them as
okay. So it's
right. So
right.
but they're still using the power stage of an amp and a quad box. So they'll usually Dave is usually plugging now into a crate.
Milk crate.
Yeah, it's a crate solid state. Yeah, the milk crate. Yeah, it's got North Coast milk in it. It's a solid state crate. Susie is usually plugging into the effects loop of a JCM 900. So they're only using power sections. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're only using the power sections of these amps. It doesn't matter what it is; it's power section.
As a 900 owner, that's the only section you'd use in one anyway.
Well, I mean, it's funny. It's funny that you say that, Chris. Actually, because
there's so many records with a 900 on it.
I'm only stirring you.
I was working a gig. I was working a gig at the beginning of the year with Susie, and I actually had 2 900s and a spare 800. Just in the kitty, because that's all I had for that line. Yep. And we're at the, I think we're at the Triffid, and or the Tivoli, Tivoli, Triffid, they're all the same shit. People come in, they dance,
Excuse me, Dwight.
they drink alcohol, whatever. I can remember.
Sorry, Dwight.
Yeah?
See you, Brendan.
See you, Brendan.
I've got to go pick up my daughter. So.
But thank you for your knowledge and wisdom. We'll do this again.
Yeah,
Amp Guru, bye-bye.
Amp Guru. Thank you, sir. We'll do this again.
Okay,
see you next time. I'll just pull you. There you go. Yeah, sorry, you were saying?
He's gone.
So it's funny because, what Brendan was talking about, that as a stage guy, and I'm using different people's back line, and I'm touring Australia. There's no two Marshall amps that are the same. It doesn't matter whether it's JCM 800, JCM and 900. I had 2 JCM 900s, and Dave ended up plugging into his crate solid state amp, and I had to run one 900 for Susie, and and everyone said, and even me said, "Oh, that sounds like shit," but she's using the power section. And then we plugged the other one in. Oh, that one sounds better. And that was the second one was through Production Dungeon. A guy in Brisbane here, Derek Boville. His amps are always great. Whenever I pull up his amps, always fantastic. He services them regularly. The power sections are always great. The 12-8 section, preamp section's always great. But it's amazing how you can find such a difference within the one amp, just between one head and another head, because that's Marshall. Okay. And that's why so many of the bands are now moving over to the modeling.
For consistency.
Exactly right.
So,
exactly right.
But there's still, right. So the golden question is the latency, and also, that magic that happens between the speaker and the head, right? It's really hard to emulate that.
When you play live on a big stage, the way that I look at it is that, you can, if you want, you can put the big Marshall amps on there, and of course the amp moves air, you feel it, but it also comes down to economics and finances. You got a tour, you'd have a low budget, and if you got a tour from Sydney around Australia, you got to lock all the heavy gear with you. Or you take a camper or an XFX or your Helix, in-ears, front of house, you're done.
Yeah. Sure.
It saves you money.
Sure. Absolutely. But the reality of that is there is no touring band except back in the old days when I was working with Rose Tattoo. There was no touring band that ever took their own head. Bob Spencer, and I love the guy. Always took his own head, and he would pack his tubes, and he would reinstall his tubes, all that sort of stuff. But the whole point was that for all the bands, it was always about consistency of sound. You know,
Can't spell.
When I first started working with James Rain's band, Berg was on one side of the stage, and no matter where we played, he sounded the same. But Josh, wherever we played, he always had a different backline amp, and they all sounded different. And he was always struggling. So Josh ended up using Axifex, and James actually used to use Axifex as his effects pedal, plugging into an AC30, because that's the way he runs.
It's funny you say that, because when I go to jam nights now or where I have to use my own gear, because I just can't do my tricks without my gear.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I toured for 5 years.
He turns up with a fucking line 6.
Yeah, I toured and played 100 gigs.
You know the best part about it is your sound, Doug, because no one else wants it, mate. It's your.
I've got a lot of amplifiers at home, but it's way too heavy to go set up.
That's what it is, because I know when we did the tours with Syndicate, you know, Chris was using a PV5150 as the preamp, and an 800 as the power amp.
Yeah.
And we were locking that shit everywhere. And, you know, you break your back over those heavy amplifiers every night, every show. And then it was just the guitar stuff. You know, you had two row guitar cases with the guitars in it, a big case for the pedal board, and then you got all the bass gear and the drummer's gear, and the lead singer comes up there like, right, I'm done.
I'll tell you some shit, though. I'll tell you some shit. 6 or 8 weeks ago, I toured with a UK band called the Choir Boys, Q-U-I-R-E, Choir Boys, right?
They're using Dixon cases.
They were using Blue Amp.
Blue amp, Thomas Blue, they're perfectly lightweight amps.
It blew me away.
It blew away.
They BLU'd me away.
Oh, BLU.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You got it.
But they're brilliant amplifiers, and Doug tested one of the speaker bins that I bring now in through our friend from John Dixon. These are lightweight speaker caps, which weigh 10 kilos instead of the big 2x12, 25 kilos.
That's right. You know.
10 kilos, and you got the Blue Camp. Then you know you sorted for the show, and it's lightweight. Like the Blue Camps, they're like.
Hey Henry.
I think 1.5 kilos.
Yeah,
something like that. Really light.
That's all it is, man. It's 1.5.
And that's what you want.
You know, and I powered those guys up, because there's 2 guitar players. I powered those guys up with their Blue amps with rudimentary quad boxes. I mean, they didn't need them because a lot of their sound was front of house, because it was a saturated sort of sound. Particularly when if you've ever worked the Tivoli, the Triffid, where they've got the side fill for the stage.
Yep.
Of course, the singer was absolutely pissed out of his head before sound check. But it made for a great night. But the whole thing was they were using Blue amp, and I couldn't work out how they got so much out of so little.
So what's so amazing about Blue amp? Can you tell us?
Well, Thomas Blue is first.
If you're a Marshall person, sorry, Remco. If you're a Marshall person, you wouldn't lug a Marshall around anywhere. You wouldn't hope to get a good Marshall at the next gig, because there's your Marshall sound. It had that thump. It had that crack on the front end. You know, Marshall. You know, when you really get into a Marshall sound for rock and roll, it's about the crack on the front end of the note. You know, it's about the way the rest of it pushes air. And I'm looking at these things that are 1.2, 1.5 kilos, and they've got a couple of extra pedals, and I'm sort of thinking, where is all this coming from? You know, so you have to go online, check out the blue amps, and see the guy that makes them over in Sweden or wherever it is,
Germany.
And he's an absolute fucking genius.
Well, Thomas
Because
Blug is a
I
session
have-
musician in Germany. So he's a
That's
session
right.
guitar
Yeah.
player.
I have personally, but the whole thing is I have personally worked with musicians using those amps, and I have been blown away in a professional stadium.
Yeah, right. Really?
It's brilliant stuff for what you get for it. You know, it's a lightweight.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a pedal. It's a pedal no big than a 2x6 pedal board.
Is it all digital, or is there no tubes in it?
No, it's felt driven.
There is a tube. There's power tubes in there, or preamp tubes in there.
Yeah. Wow.
It's one preamp tube.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's perfect.
And does it
stuff.
do it?
And it's got two different models as well, you know. So you got a bit of the Brit tone or the American tone. You just brought out a second one. You should check up the videos from Henning from HP42. Henning did really big reviews about the blue cams.
Kevie G, there you go.
It's for the lightweight of it, Doug. It's perfect.
Yeah.
How are you, man?
Yep.
Well,
and then
that's
you use
good.
your Scott Dixon 2x12 with it. You know, you're laughing going to these shows. You know, it's like,
absolutely.
What are you doing? Oh, this is my gear. Puff, guitar on the back.
So with Dwight, with all this new gear that you've seen before, with the younger bands coming through with lighter, and
and the older bands,
ergonomic gear. Do you, as a guitar tech for the Angels or whoever you're working with, running the stage for, do you actually suggest and say, "Hey, you should check this out," or are they just set in their ways? Or
absolutely. I first it's probably 14 months ago. I first planted the seed with my dear friend Rick Brewster that he should check out Axe-Fx. And that was because I've been working.
Name drop.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Hang on. Let me get my phone, and I will show you my phone calls today and yesterday, and you will see Rick Brewster and Jong.
Go on, do it. Go on, go get it.
Yeah, just
Marshall,
make sure you don't show the numbers.
I'll be back.
Yeah, sure.
We got Marshall.
You can't ring yourself under a different name, you know.
Yeah. Quick, change your username.
We're just waiting for Marshall to come online. I'll just wait for him.
Yes, Marshall's the Fender amp enthusiast.
Well, Marshall's a great bass player as well. But Marshall, if you're listening, he just went into the black hole, fell in through to the abyss. But
we're talking about X and that sort of thing, Doug. We were back in the 80s. It's funny because it's not new, and we all know that. But I was running a Roland GP8. That's probably well and truly before your time.
Yeah, no, I nearly bought one. They're massive.
When I was massive.
Well, the VG8 was really, really massive. As in, like, it's a big piece of kit for not very many buttons on there.
Oh yeah, yes, true. It didn't have a lot of processing power.
You remember the ARX?
Yeah, they were. That was the shit. When I first heard one of those, and I think it would have been 1986. I think I was either in Parlins Music in Sydney, Parlins or Venue Music or whatever. Still got you know what I'm talking about, brother. So
there he is.
That's
hey, Marshall.
How you going? That was a bit of a turning point.
Kevin. Yeah, but it's funny, looking at all the digital gear now, like the Axe-Fx, all the shit what I've got behind me in a rack fits all in that one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, here we go.
Get all the sounds out of it. All right, so that's 0.
There's no phone numbers. There's no phone numbers.
I didn't realise Pornhub had a phone number.
All right, okay, cool. You proved your point. So, Marshall's an awesome bass player as well. So Marshall, Kev, and we're just Marshall, who's just joined us. Dwight here is
works where are you coming from, Marshall?
Angels.
Sorry, what's that?
Where's Marshall come from?
Gold Coast.
Nice. Whereabouts Gold Coast?
Actually, in the hinterland.
Oh yeah.
In Canungra. Yeah, Mount
okay.
Something around.
Nice. In the valley.
And do you have any
Getting burned down then?
guitar
okay.
questions? Guitar questions for you, Marshall?
I'm just listening at the moment. I'm in listen mode.
In listen mode, okay.
Yeah, wrong thing. Do you have
So
any
maybe-
bass questions, man?
What's
Don't
that,
worry about
Kevie?
guitar. I was saying, don't worry about guitar, man. Do you have bass questions?
Bass questions.
That's right. That's right.
I don't need those extra practice strings, man. I'm okay. I don't know about these
Well,
other blokes.
That's a
That's
good
the
question.
We've been
So,
trained.
so Marshall McAdam, if I can ask,
Yes.
what's your favourite style of bass to play?
Oh goodness. Probably jazz fusion
Right there.
and music. Yeah.
You using a 4-string?
I've got two jazz basses. I've got a 72 jazz bass, 4-string, and a 2006 5-string custom shop, which is nice as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and they both sound completely different, of course. But yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
What do you play through, Marshall?
what do I play through? Oh, I've got a couple of different things. I mean, mostly just using TC250,
Yeah, Nita.
practice amp. At a gig I've been using a Mark bass, one of those little 212 wedges things.
Yep.
They're great. They're pretty neat, And I've got a rock gig as well, a rig which is like a Trace Elliott preamp with a BGW Class A 750, 350 side into 215s for big stuff. But I haven't used that for a long while because it's too.
That's real gear, that one.
Come and listen to my
We're working with them.
the 18s.
Yeah. So where are you, Chris? Where about you based?
I'm up in just the south side of Brisbane, Sailor Park area.
Okay.
Oh, so tight.
I'm there.
Your neighbours. You are neighbours.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Western neighbours.
But I used to spend a lot of time at Canunga every weekend.
Southwestern neighbours.
Oh, there you go. So, maybe if I ask Dwight with the touring circuit, has there been any good digital bass solutions?
So far, zero. Everyone's still using an Ampeg, and they're using a full fridge.
Full fridge.
So what about these electronic?
810s, mate. 810s. Chris's band. He's using an 810, and he's using a couple of 210 sides, or is he using? I'm trying to remember what he had. He was using so much bass rig because it's upright double bass. I think he was possibly using 2 full fridges and an extra 410.
Scott, whatever his name is,
yeah, Scotty.
Yeah, I run double tens and Mesa 10s right on my head so I can hear because of a few hearing issues if and when I'm playing bass, and then either double 15 or double 18 below that. So just to
Wow.
But for instance, when I'm working with the Tats, for instance, Mark will use the Ampeg SVT with a full fridge, so it's 810s. Depending on the venue, Sammy Brewster, Sam will use the same thing. I've done a few gigs where it's been a smaller venue and we've used the SVT head, but we've used a 410 cap. And I've stuck it up on a box just to get.
Do you reckon the only reason they use that stuff is because they've got roadies to lug it? Because the SVT, like an original SVT,
because it just sounds superior.
Oh yeah, they sound
It really
great.
does.
Moving the things.
It really, really does. I mean, I've heard a whole bunch of different rigs. Gallian Kruger rigs. Trace Elliott rigs. Look. Sorry to all those GK and JK rig owners, but when it comes to Oz pub rock, no. We just have to understand when it comes to my experience, which is limited to the which is limited to the upper echelon of Australian pubs.
So what we should do regarding base rigs then, once this whole Corona stuff is over and they can start shipping stuff again, I'm going to get base cabinets over, the lightweight base cabinets from England. So I'm going to get 210s and 15s. They're going to get them all over once they can ship them because the pallet is waiting in a warehouse. And then first we're going to check it out with Kevie, but then, you should come along as well. And if Marshall wants, and just go somewhere at the gig or whatever, and test them out. And
Kevie and I have probably got a bit of stuff you can sell now anyway.
The thing is with all the rock bands that I work with, the bass players, and it doesn't matter. I'm not going to name drop here, but
hang on, wait, already, man.
Angels, Rose Tattoo, Boom Crash Opera.
The scratch on this record.
Right, the bass players are all still using Ampeg as the backline that I supply them, and it's simply because it's fat. But it's clear, the clarity and the fatness of that sound. And they don't need to be super loud to move that air because it's 8/10.
It's not about loudness. It's more about, if you got to carry the stuff around, it's the weight you got to lift.
Well, they don't need to carry this shit around. I do it. That's I used to be 6'4". I'm now 5'7".
That's why I don't want to do it anymore because I want to keep me back. But, Doc, I'm going to bill out now.
Okay, cool, man. I've got someone else who might be popping on, but thanks, Remco.
Guys,
Remco.
Bye.
Have a good night. And Kevie, what were you saying?
I'm going to chime in, mate. I'm going to chime in. Being a bass player and all. It's the lower end.
I want to hear from you, man.
Everything that I do, I'm not in the upper echelon of pub rock at all because I've got to carry my own gear, so I'll just standard that one out. But I'll still run 410 minimum, man. I run an SVT. Minimum. I used to run SVT 3. Yeah, I used to run SVT. I'm running WT 800s now or Eden rigs because I want that clarity, especially with how fast my notes play. Crazy crap. But anyway, but yeah, minimum is a 410. Minimum is a 410.
That's right.
You've got to move that in.
Yep, that's right.
Ask Doug. Doug, that's right. Ask Doug.
It's a feel thing, mate.
I've got to figure out. Fucking, it's Brady Bunch again. But
you're Alice. Okay, you're Alice.
Which one's Bobby?
We talk all the time about game before.
Look, Kevie, when I'm playing with BB and the Kings, I only play with a 20-watt head, but I use a vertical 212, and it's not because I want volume. I just want air, because we play 400, 500 people, and I want air. I want to be able to feel it. Because if I can't feel what I'm playing, it doesn't work for me. My guitar and my amp and the speakers aren't working for me. So I totally understand. And like I said, Sam will usually use a full fridge, but there are times when you use a half fridge with the 410s because A, that's all we've got to give him for backline, but B, it's all he really look. They're mates. I forget about me. Look, it's also the women. I've toured the far north Queensland with James Rain's band, and there has never been a need for Andy MacGyver to use any more than a 410, but he's using an 810. Because that's what I was able to pull up there for him, Yeah. The minimum I use is 14. Played, I can remember playing at the I think we were in Townsville, and we played at the local pub there, and clearly there was he could have used a 210. It was bouncing off the back wall so hard that it was deafening me and then deafening the people on the way back. But at the same time, we have to understand that as a player on stage, it's so different to the punter out front because we need to be able to
Hear
feel and connect with both our instrument and our amplifier, because that's they work together. There's this symbiotic relationship that happens, and without that happening, we can't create what we do.
Yep.
And like as a
Are you there? Oh, he's playing with Frozen again. Are you there, man?
They're probably watching it as we speak.
He's watching the Disney movie. I'll just wait till he comes back to life and add him in. But Marshall, yeah, do you have any questions?
He's got him again.
Name drop police that got him.
Yeah. Okay. So has anyone been
He just got a
really
phone
knocked
call
out by
saying,
any of
"Shut
the
up."
D-class amplifiers?
What's that? Sorry.
Is
We
that
got him.
have you been knocked out by any of the small D-class amplifiers in general? You know, I mean, compared to like things like we was talking about, like the Ampex and stuff. I mean, I did a gig in Melbourne one time and I had a higher SVT, you know. Had 810s sitting on 215s at the Palais, and it was the most amazing sound I think I've ever heard in my life. You could feel it, and it wasn't too loud, but it was the spread was insane.
That's right.
It was
That's right.
it was so good. And I remember like when I back in the early '80s, I had a Music Man HD head, a valve head, which was fantastic. I should have never sold it.
Right.
And just like you know. And then, of course, I went to like the high-class power amps after that. But anything, the small things, really, unless you're playing ultra quiet, I haven't found anything to me anyway. And I sort of played with a few different people. Yeah, exactly. That you have to really sort of EQ the hell out of it to try to get some nuts out of it, you know?
Yeah.
I like that, Chris. That's great. No, it's so true.
It's for me. If I'm stuck doing a bass gig somewhere, I will. If it's a little thing, which thank goodness it doesn't happen very often, but to be honest, I'll take I'll take my head rush. I'll take my head rush, and I'll just run through front of house with a folder. Or if it's the other extreme, I'll take, depending on which, you know, back in the day, not so much recently, but I've still got the gear. I've got a number of Mesa amps from a little bit of support from down south, and
That's you.
I'll either run a Titan V12, I'll run a Carbine 9, which was the last one I got, or a Alma 400 Plus. But I'm just all about, even at low volumes, I'm just all about that air because I've got some hearing issues, and that makes all the difference for me. Especially with
truly,
these guitarists, you know, always it's all about them, you know.
What's wrong with that?
It's like all the guys.
Look, I've been working as a professional musician for over 30 years. And actually, the biggest
awesome.
the biggest
awesome.
thing the biggest thing that has always bothered me has never been my volume, because I don't set the volume, the drummer does.
Drummer does snare.
Right?
Yep.
No, I don't want to start. I don't want to start, you know, bringing up any contentious issues. But the drummer sets the volume.
I'll put my drummer hat on.
So depending on what side of stage I've been playing on over the last 30 years will depend on where I've got an earplug, because I don't like, particularly with my height, it's usually around.
Oh, Kevie's doubling up.
Kevie. Okay. Sorry,
waiting for it to come back.
I don't know what Kev's doing.
So I will always use, and I've got them here. I will always use a Bluetooth because I have to work both with the bands, but also with stage management. But I will use these ears, and the more I pull them out, the less that they drop. But the more I push them in, so you will see me in some gigs, in photo gigs, if the drummer's on my left, I've got this ear in, and which is on your right, and that's simply because I need that hearing tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, because I love hearing my children yell and fight. You know. But
drummer volume is a contentious issue.
but the reality is, like, for me, over
Oh, here we go, Rob. I'm sorry.
professionally, is the drummer has always
Yeah, the drummer sets the volume.
has always set the drummer has always set the volume for what we are playing live. And in fact, my last gig, which was with the Joe Cocker Band, I played 3 weeks ago with the Joe Cocker Band.
Yeah.
Before all this coronavirus lockdown shit happened, which happened on the Monday, I played on the Sunday. We played in front of 500 people.
All right.
And I had both my keyboard player in the band and the singer come up to me and say, "You're not loud enough. We can't hear you."
Oh wow!
Now, I'm already on 10. I've got a 1960s hand wired amp that a friend of mine, who's a country guy.
And just before you tell that story, if that's cool, I'll just quickly introduce Troy Gastidelli. I just want to quickly introduce Rob, if that's cool. So, Rob, how are you, sir?
Hey, Rob.
G'day,
now, Rob,
guys.
For those all listening, Rob is a sensational all-round muso. He can play, he can sing, and more importantly, put a show together. So that means coordinating other individuals to make it all happen.
Wrangling cats.
So 3 weeks ago, here I am. I'm playing up there. I've got this wonderful, beautiful 7-watt hand watt amp from the 1960s.
Yeah,
I got from Troy.
Troy Casadale. Name drop.
Troy,
Name drop.
Yeah. You can do that for me, right? We're just mates. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'll just catching Rob up to speed because you. This is Rick Brewster's from the Angels Guitar Tech talking. This is Dwight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
So,
Rick and John. I deal with Sam. I deal with Nick. Obviously, Dave doesn't play that much guitar, but we play.
Cool. Well, then,
look, I love these guys. Rick rang me today several times. John rang me yesterday. It's all been confirmed by my phone messages.
Yes, yeah. Well, we should ask. We should ask Rob. What's your favourite piece of kit, Rob? Your favourite live amp and guitars, if that's cool, or does that depend on the show, Rob?
Yeah.
It just sort of depends on the weather.
How's the weather at the moment, Rob?
It's beautiful here, just north of Byron Bay.
Where are you? Where are you coming from, Rob?
Just north of Byron Bay in a place called Pottsville.
Yep.
I know Pottsville.
Yeah.
I grew up at Brunswick Heads, man.
Oh, there you go, Bruns.
I was recording down a rocking horse a couple of months ago.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
I used to 30 odd years ago. I used to record out the back of Mullum at a place called the guy was thalidomide. What did he call himself? Fucking not one arm or something like that. Anyway, I forget right now.
Well, anyway, so it depends on the weather, Rob.
Yeah, probably at the moment my Gibson ES335 is my go-to guitar.
Yep.
It's
cool.
It's not an old one. It's an 06 Nashville, but it's a fat neck, so it's got like the 57, 58 neck profile. So it's like
nice.
Yeah, and it's got the 57 classics in it.
Take me out to the ball.
Awesome. The amp for me it's actually behind me there, over my shoulder.
What is it?
Wrong way.
Yeah, bring it on.
Here's
what we did.
Audio. Yeah, it's an M1, yeah.
Iron Duke.
Yeah, nice.
Michael Ibrahim, he's more famous for the for his pedals. But that amp is
I know Michael Ibrahim more for his amps actually.
Yeah, well,
I don't know so much about his because Bergs was a client of mine years ago that I built a custom guitar for. So
yeah, Bergs is great.
I know Michael from his amps. Beautiful.
Yeah, and it was when I was using, I think I was using a Marshall Blues Breaker before buying that thing.
Yep.
And
forget that.
Because I mixed myself. Well, man, it was one of the best sounding amps, man. No headroom, man.
The amount of amps that come through here, man.
Yeah.
Forget it.
But yeah, I got onto that because Dave Leslie basically demoed demoed it and it sold me on that amp. So
Yeah, right.
and I've had it for
And yet
7 years.
And yet Dave uses Axe Effects.
Yeah, he does now. But so does everyone. Northcote and all those Dolce. They're all using Axe Effects. But it's been great. It's done everything I've asked of it. It's been roadworthy. It's only been in the shop twice in 8 years.
What's the power section and how many watts are you running?
Oh, it's 50 watts. 50 watts,
Wow.
4-channel.
4-channel.
Yeah, so it's like clean, dirty,
Crunch.
kind of crunch,
Dirty
then
and
gain,
filth.
and then high gain.
Yeah.
But it's like a
Yeah.
modded JCM 800, really.
Okay.
Is yours
Are
off
you
the-
running 84? Are you running 84s, 66s, 34s?
Yeah,
What are you running?
Yeah,
in
two
power?
TL 34s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so very Marshall,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's good at low volumes, which is that's always been something that I've looked for, is an amp that can sound good at low volumes
Using
as well as
no
high volumes.
attenuator.
No, it's got a half
attenuator, or
power
you've got
switch,
master
but
volume.
Nah.
Master volume.
master volumes, for each channel.
Yeah.
So each individual
wow.
channel has
Yeah,
pre
nice.
and post gain.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
So
A bit like the old PVs that had the pre and post.
the 5150
There was
combo,
what they
man.
call
I used to have one of those. But I couldn't.
Yeah, they're great, man. They ran I think in the power section they ran EL84s, but they had pre and
No.
post.
Two 6L6s in the combo.
Nah, I had the
6L6 or 6V6?
No, 6L6.
no. I had the 84 version, so it was more the Marshall sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
The blues. There was the one with a 15-inch
oh.
speaker in it. I can't it's years ago,
Yeah,
I've
right.
had so many
Yeah.
amps. Come on, people.
I don't know.
Pipe in.
It sounds good. Sounds good. Oh, that's good, Rob, because Rob actually plays in some awesome tribute shows, and I guess a good question, Rob, from me is because I think I've only met you face to face once, actually. I think have I? Or?
Yeah, Twin Towns.
Yeah, and I
With Rod
introduced you
Stewart.
Yeah.
with Rob Cordial. So a friend of mine,
Yeah.
Rob Cordial, I met him in Memphis. Do you guys know Sean Lane, guitar player?
Yeah,
Yep.
awesome.
Just phenomenal. So if you're into shred,
Yeah.
I'm into shred.
Yeah.
Rob Cordial. So if you're watching Rob Cordial actually played in a band with Sean Lane. And long story short, a friend of mine's actually got the lease on the bar where Sean Lane actually played, and it's now called Rock House Live. So I actually went to this.
Yeah.
It used to be called the old Poplar Lounge on Poplar Avenue in downtown Memphis, Midtown Memphis, I think it is.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, rehearsing. That's what I was going to ask you. Rehearsing your show. Do you do that at full volume, little volume, or do you do it digitally, or what do you do?
We don't rehearse. We just don't rehearse. There's no time. Honestly, our
Want to
main
be in
bass.
your band?
Oh, yeah, exactly. If everyone does their homework,
Can I
Yes.
get $400
It's all right,
night for
you
the
know.
rehearsal?
yeah. Well, we're all spread out.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
We're all very spread out.
Daughter.
All right, I'm
daughter.
going.
All right.
Yeah, our bass player's like 4 hours north of me. Keyboard player's an hour south, and the drummer's 2 hours south. So,
Yep.
You might as well be
makes
next
So
to
the
the
drummer drives the keyboard player's place, and they jump in the car together.
well,
Yeah.
we've had, since the new drummer started, I had one rehearsal with him, just the two of us. And then we had a vocal rehearsal about 2 months ago, the three of us, the drummer, keyboard player, and myself.
Yeah,
So-
but look, none of us have got any gigs for the last 6 weeks or the next.
Well,
and so who
exactly right.
cares,
So I decided that I was going to learn the minor scale. So I've been working on the minor scale last week.
Is that
Tuesday's
is that
pentatonic.
Yeah, I'm
Is
just
that
a pentatonic guy. So I thought maybe I'll start learning some scales and some
That's it.
slide
Just
and
go
see how we go.
fishing.
Yeah. Self-taught, man. I didn't get into. I learned the pentatonic.
How do I
and
put
was
that?
it.
Yeah, how do I put that shrimp on the barbie? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I must say that Rob's a great.
Rob, you know, is you get to a level where, and if you're playing, then I hate to say the word standards because it gets used a lot around, especially on the cover side of things. But you, if everyone knows what they're doing, it's not rocket science. You know,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
sort of,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
first,
that's
even if you've never played in the same room together, 2 or 3 songs in, if your drummer and your bass player are on point, it makes the rest of it pretty easy for us. So
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
It's mostly arrangement stuff.
absolutely, you know.
And talking about being.
And-
Oh, you go, Dwight.
No, Neil, Doug.
Oh well, I just wanted to ask there about being on point, Rob, because I've seen your awesome show. Is just queuing for the ends, so everyone can learn, start the drummer counts it in, blah blah blah, do your thing, but the ends of it. So do you cue your ends? Do you have any like little secret jump? I know John Mayer does a little jump for an accent, or a singer might lift a hand, not a head, like. Secret men's business. What is it?
the best I've ever seen is at the Spring of Carabar on a Thursday night. The away people just finish all at the same time is phenomenal.
The drummer and I have played together for like 15 years, so we kind of I have not played with a drummer who can set things up better than him.
Right.
You can hear the changes coming, you can hear the endings coming, like he just sets it up for everybody. And so
That's an art.
if you're musically minded, you just pick it up like that, and
Active listening. Yep. Ensemble playing.
And I like the Prince thing. On the one, on the one. Yep. It's just, that's how you end it. On the one.
That's it.
So have you had any, rock and roll stories of train wrecks that, are worth telling?
Oh, there's always
Without
like
name dropping
rock stories.
Or maybe.
Oh, there's no names to drop. But
sorry, Dwight's here.
Yeah.
Well, one day, John Brewster happened to come into the studio.
Hang on, I'll just exit this conversation.
Yeah. One rock and roll story for me. I was showing off playing guitar behind my head, and I stood on the drum kit to do this. I thought it'd be a good idea, and the drum kit gave way, so I destroyed the drums and finished the gig in style.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I think the best one I saw from the crowd, I think we went to see Deep Purple, might have been 99, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And there was a band supporting them called Foxy.
Oh.
And I'd never heard of them before. Anyway, the guitar player went to do the Steve Vai Malmsteen, like fling around.
Oh, yeah.
Around his body.
Yeah.
And it went up in the air and it crashed on the ground.
It kept going.
And he went to his knees and he was just like hand in hand. And everybody was just laughing.
Here is a question for all of us.
We'll come back to
it. When you became, firstly, what was your, this is a double-bladed question. What was your first real full-on concert, and what was your first concert that you saw at legal age when you could buy your own ticket?
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
I'll start. Okay. To get you rolling. Just to get you rolling.
Okay.
So you
ready for the name drop?
Last question, because
1984.
Yeah.
I was right down the front of the Sydney cricket ground for the second to last concerts of the Police. The support acts were the Sunny Boys and this guy who was throwing out badges saying Brian Adams who? With a question mark. And it was Brian Adams before he was famous. So that was 1984.
Wow.
They finished, they did Sydney, which is where I saw them in 84. Then they did Melbourne, and then the Police split up. So I was there.
Adams was cranking well and truly in 85, though, right?
Coronavirus in 84.
Oh, wow.
But hang on. The first band that I saw when I became 18 and could buy my own ticket to a legal licensed venue was the Angels.
Ah.
In 1987 at the Byron Bay Piggery, but the support act were the Party Boys, which at that time had
John Swan.
Brewster in it.
John Swan. I know.
Yep.
I used to get lessons from Swanee singing.
In it as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, he used to.
Okay,
what about
who's next?
Chris?
Doug, you're the Doug.
Oh, okay. Well, the first when I was in high school, I had a student teacher. His name's Dave Stewart. I'm still in contact with him now. He's
what from
retired.
Eurythmics?
No, not that Dave Stewart. No. But he sort of exposed me to the covers world. But I think live act. I think probably the first gig that blew me away. I don't think it was the first gig I actually saw, but I went and actually saw Michael Jackson at some stage. I can't remember, and I was blown away. One of the stage props was a freaking tank, and they drove the tank. This was at ANZ Stadium. I don't know. It must have been early '90s or something. And anyway, it might have been 1996 tour or something. Anyway, they had a tank, and anyway, the closing thing was this guy in a suit, and it just flew out of the stadium. And I was like, that is cool. I really want to do that. And but I think that's technically that blew me away. But I think what did I see? I think one of the first gigs was probably like a fusion gig, like Virgil Donati, because I've got a jazz degree, and I actually spent a lot of time across the road when I grew up. I studied under one of my neighbours. His name was Phil Wright, rest his soul. Yep. He's passed away now. He was mates with Dave Brubeck. I don't know if you know who Dave Brubeck is.
Yeah, I know Dave. Yeah, no.
Dave Brubeck. Phil and Dave would come to my house where I was rehearsing downstairs, and they'd bash on my garage, and I thought it was the cops. I mean, it was these two jazz heads, and I was saying, like, dude, tune your guitar, So, it was.
Right. That's right.
This is crazy, but that was my sort of exposure to like learning the instrument. I just remember being surrounded by people with chops to die for. I think, I mean, as you guys probably see me play around, that's what inspired me. So anyway, who's next?
That's right. You're definitely a butcher. You like your chops.
Thanks, mate.
We need to just flash back in time for a second from our previous question before I answer these two. You were talking about famous, fuck ups, whatever you want to call it, that you've seen live or been part of.
Foibles. Come on, it's a.
I must admit, probably the worst thing that I've ever seen was probably I didn't actually see it because it was me doing it. Back when I was a long-haired rock star, if my guitar playing ability was anywhere near as big as my ego, Paul Gilbert had nothing on me. All right, but anyway, this one particular night, I was used to running. We're experimenting with wireless, and it was shit. Angry, obviously.
2 years ago,
they were running around with backpacks and everything. It wasn't exactly, Young had his backpack on. I didn't, for obvious reasons. But we had this weird setup that our guy was dicking around with, and I gave it a go. And I played with that for a couple of months or whatever. And then one night I was pissed, and I can't remember. We were playing at one of and Sydney in those days in the 80s was there was a rock gig Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night everywhere. Something was on somewhere. And I was at a bit of a regular one, had a bit of a following. And so I've gone in the middle of, I can't remember what song it was. I was probably trying to be Eddie Van Halen or whatever it was. And I've done the knee slide down the bar as, no worries, or, not a problem. But I forgot I was plugged in. So the cable took out 15 people's drinks that went off the bar.
Expensive.
The Whippersnipper logo sort of stuck for a little while after that one. But I probably owed a few people a few drinks that night after that one. The first band proper gig that I'd ever seen, I would have been about 5 or 6, maybe 7. I was sub 10 years old. And I was at Parramatta Cumberland Oval. And it's hard to believe that, I would have been that age and those guys were playing. They're only young and they were support for Shanana. Do you remember Shanana?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Too young, thank fuck, says Doug. But so Old 55 was my first gig that I ever saw. Paid gig, as in actually went to what was it? The Entertainment Centre in Sydney. And it was 5 bands for $5 on a Saturday. And it would have been, a bunch of girls involved from work and all the rest of it. I would have been probably 15 or 16. No, it would have been 16. Yeah, 16 at the time. And I think the first band I saw, and they sucked, and it was Kids in the Kitchen. They won. I can't remember who the other bands were, but that was the only one I remember.
Oh.
So, I think the next gig after that I saw, I would have been probably late 16s, and that was the Angels. And that was at Tiffany Blackout across from the police station, Bob Spencer days and Jim Hilbum playing saxophone and playing bass.
Yep.
And I was a bit of a regular there. And it was a Wednesday night, which was their main nights for decent acts for whatever reason. Because I think Fridays and Saturdays was more about, the pissheads and trying to dance. So Wednesday night we're up there and it's nearly 11 o'clock and they're not on yet. And you could hear behind the stage curtain, it sounded like a building site and you could hear bloody ram sets going off and all sorts of crap. And the only way the main way into the place was this. There's no way to get past code now, but there was 2 flights of stairs. And these things must have been 30 steps each. Like I might be exaggerating a bit, but you'd never get it past these days without landings in between them. And I walked down the front to see the bouncers because one of them was an older brother of a friend, and they said, "Oh, they're waiting on Doc Neeson." As I've asked what's going on, the taxi pulls up and Doc gets out. He'd broken his leg. He'd been in hospital, had a plaster put on his leg. They took him up with whatever. He still turned up to the gig, and they were behind the curtain. They were building a dentist chair, and they gave him the remote. And he was obviously on Novocaine or whatever the case may be. And that was I've seen the Angels many times. I was at Bankstown when they recorded Livewire. And that gig at Tiffany's at Blacktown when he was spinning around in the dentist chair on whatever, that was still the most entertaining one of them. May have been the amount of alcohol that I drank, but waiting for it to happen. But that was a great gig.
All right, who's next? Rob, you want to go? Or?
Yeah, sure. I guess I was sort of brought up in pubs my whole life because my dad played league, so. We're always at the local. So my first exposure was to cover musicians. And one in particular, a beast of a guitar player and a lovely man, Terry Murray.
Yep.
Who used to do all the stuff for Doug Mulray. And was in a band called the Far Gone Beauties.
Oh, they were great.
He was amazing. But my first proper concert was, again, I was a kid. My mum got me into the local RSL and I saw James Rain.
I
think I was 15.
WBFF over here.
Yeah, Jamie Jardine was on guitar then. I don't know if any of you remember Jamie.
Maybe, yeah.
He was married to Jo Beth Taylor for a while.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, and so, but then my own money, I think the Black Crows at the Horden Pavilion.
Yeah, nice.
In 91 or 92.
The Horden Pavlova.
Yeah, when the Horden sounded good before they ruined it.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
And the support that night were the Lime Spiders. And,
yes, Mick Blood's a mate of mine on Facebook. I remember.
Yeah, right. Shout out.
He's up here, He's up on I think he's on the north side of Brisbane.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, we don't talk to north side Brisbane people.
Oh, I talk to Nick. Yeah, all these that inner Sydney 80s
in Brisbane
music culture. That was Sydney in those days.
Boys, I spend a lot of time on the northern
Yeah.
beaches, and that's called the
Yeah,
Insular
you know, you
Peninsula.
got to think about. You got
Northern
to think.
Beaches in what?
I can remember gigs of Akadaka back at the Manly Vale.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
Well,
we're talking early
sorry.
days before they.
And men are all
Yep.
everywhere.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Damien Lovelock passed away recently, so you'd probably know him if you're all in those guys. So he was one of my favourite frontmen of all time. So it was sad to he lost his battle with the Big C. So each to their own. But mix up on this side, and one of the best bands from down there in Sydney in those days was actually a Queensland band called Voodoo Lust. They went south, and I think a couple of them stayed up here because they didn't want to move, and they were touring the circuit down there because that Sydney pub band, that original pub band thing was a big scene back in the late 80s, and Gary Slater and Tony. I can't remember Tony's last name, but the guitarist, he was great. They used to have this real cool cover of Peter Gunn, Peter Gunn theme as their intro. So they were just one of those bands that sort of get into your head, and you'd go, nobody. It was like $2, $5 in or whatever, but you'd go and follow them around. I was probably a groupie in those days, in a lot of ways, just because it was just cool to hear something completely different to what anybody else was doing. So. Yeah.
And do you still
with the Angels and
and so is that all finished now, Rob? Are we up to Marshall now?
Yeah, Marshall, go.
Rose Tattoo 78.
Cool.
Nice.
Paddington Town Hall with Dave Warner from the Suburbs.
Oh, I say
yeah. And also and Ayers Rock with Jim Kelly playing guitar as well.
Okay. Yeah. Jim Kelly's great.
That was a fantastic gig. The great thing about that gig was I thought Rose Tattoo was just pumping, and there was a guy sound asleep in a W bin, and I went, "This is rock and roll." He was just so passed out. He wasn't moving. He got up the end, going, "Oh my head, oh my head." I went, "Wow, that was just amazing." I knew it was rock and roll. That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So, if
Chris Mazuick and Mick Medju, more legends,
So, maybe just another question.
I love the Paddo Town Hall.
With this whole COVID thing that's happening, how do you guys think this is going to affect, for good or for worse, the whole music industry? Because I guess the playing field has just been leveled, and I know we're all at different levels here. I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I've been a venue manager as well, not too long
ago. Of course.
So I've been on the other side running pubs and booking entertainment for those pubs as well. I think if half the venues come back, I'll be happy. I don't.
Oh, wow.
I think there's going to
That's a good call, Rob.
I think there's going to be some government grants to get some of the surf clubs back up and running. The pubs, the pubs they're in a bit of trouble. The bigger groups will survive. I think ALH, those sorts of places have enough capital and investments that they can maybe sell off and keep the cash flow going. But I think the overheads.
Currently, all they got to do is press a button and print some more money, and they'll be right.
Yeah, but I think the overheads.
ALH, to my knowledge, are Woolworths owned, so that they'll be able to manage their assets. It's
Woolworths are just being in the process of selling off.
With some of the pubs, it's assets based.
Yeah.
Which is sad for us performers, because we need venues, and if venues are nothing more than assets and they get sold off, then we don't have a venue.
No, that's right. And I think they're going to be very, very protective of their bottom line early on, because they're going to have to get the money back from sales, food, poker machines.
Well, that's you mentioned poker machines. That was probably the only thing that put a smile on my face, Rob. And no offense, I understand it's a big part of it, but when the thought of that all the poker machines shut down, I couldn't stop grinning. And
that's why I kind of got out of it too, to be honest, and went back to playing music full time when I moved up here.
Yeah.
But look, I'm I'm expecting to do ticketed shows with my tribute show for the first couple of months.
Yeah.
Just because I think people will want to go out,
Yeah.
and
Thanks,
I'm
Dwight.
not expecting the venues
the
to
big.
kick
Sorry,
entertainment straight
Rob.
away.
Rob, sorry to interrupt, Rob. What's like? Because I work with the upper echelon. What's a good price for a venue that's a ticketed venue entry for
There's so many
a cover band or a
variables.
tribute band? You know.
Yeah, there's just too many variables to give a price. Like the venue might have a room and they'll give it to you for free, because they'll want I think that's what you'll be able to do early on. Someone will give you a room, but you'll have to take all the risk.
Take the bums on seats.
Yeah, so
$5 to
if you
$10 is about it, eh?
yeah, and you budget depending on how many in the room, but I'd be budgeting to 100 to 150 heads.
That used to happen in the 80s anyway.
Yeah, and you've got to be able. The room's got to be small enough so you can do all the rigging, the sound, the lighting yourself. Because there just won't be money to get production and lighting in. And pay a guy, which is sort of where I'm at. I've always sort of done my own PA and performed at the same time. So it's second nature to us as a band. I think we've got the cruises, all the kind of cruises up here, which we were well and truly into before this happened. So Tweed Eco Cruises, that's 90 people on board. $65, $70 a ticket, includes food.
Captive market.
So we make money doing that. We've got one on the Maroochy River. And before this went down, I was doing, talking with one of the Brisbane cruise companies, Kookaburra, and trying to get one on the Gold Coast, the MV Lady, but I wasn't sure about numbers on that one. But that's sort of what I'm going to be looking at is events based early on, concept shows, maybe doing particular years.
Yeah, exactly. That was my next question to you is it are you focusing more on concept / tribute shows, or are you more focusing on the cover shows to feed to the broader public?
No, I think the mixed cover thing's done. I think it was on life support before this happened. A lot of bands struggling to get money, venues not wanting to pay money because they're not pulling the numbers, you know. So you can see
there's a lot of non-quality there.
I agree with that. I'm not gonna pull numbers, but I play in a Joe Cocker tribute band, and we're a 7-piece, and I can say it's actually better for me to stay at home and go and play with the Joe Cocker band than it is to do some of the other gigs that I do, tour gigs.
Because people are looking for something that's out of the ordinary. Like they don't want
to
see.
And also it's the Renaissance era. So we have to continue to be able to feed to the Renaissance people. So our crowd are wanting Joe Cocker. They're wanting Michael Jackson. They're wanting the Angels. You know, the Angels are doing better business now with what they do as, in a sense, almost like a tribute band to their history. Then, you know, because what we are doing when I work with the Angels, a lot of the gigs are the 40th anniversary of this album and this album. It's you know, the remake of an album, and
nostalgia is a big seller.
Well, it's not only a big seller, but reality is for us of our age, it's what we need to be hearing. It's what we need to be experiencing, because we don't relate to what our children and if you're old enough, our grandchildren are listening to, because we're of a different generation. It's a generational thing, and we have to continually pay homage and also pay respect to the tradition of the music that we grew up with, because that is what has pretty much, in that sense, inspired us to be who we are.
And it's history.
Yeah, I mean, when I first went, like 6 years ago, when I first went and worked, 5 years ago, sorry, when I first went and worked with James Rain, I sat there in the audience before going backstage after the gig, and I didn't realize how many of his songs were a part of the tapestry of my life. You know what I mean? And it's the same with the Angels. You know, I've been working, you know, ad nauseum with the Angels for several years now, and I can't, particularly with all the you know, face-to-face tour and blah 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 blah. I can't quite comprehend how much of, particularly the first song, the first rock and roll song I ever learned was Amanda the Actress. It was like, and I was learning it on a classical guitar, which is what I learnt on. You know what I mean? You know,
So
that intro.
So I'm just sorry to chime in there. So do you think, going back to Rob's statement there about the effect of, or what you want to do is get back to the rooms and stuff, but what about and the venues? I think that was a good point.
Yeah.
But what about all the solo musos? I know, solo gigs per se, because I know that there's a law. I don't know about down south, but in Queensland, as you would know, being a bar owner,
absolutely, yeah.
if they have poker machines, they must provide another source of entertainment. But whether they may flex that, because before it had to be live entertainment. And some of the venues would sort of lean on that and just, you know, provide. Used to be bands, but then became duos and become solo artists. Is live going to be interactive DJing? Like I don't know, but just really wondering.
Fine then with his snare and his keyboard, then that should be right.
Yeah, and his looper pedal, his looper pedal, it's the birth of the looper pedal, really.
Oh no!
So,
scary.
So,
I think you think you'll be for the real stuff, Doug? Whether people will pay for it, but that's another story. That's why I like what Rob was saying, especially with that. And I don't want to take this out of context, but that captured market, that captured audience, when people are paying $50, $70, $100, whatever it is, to jump on a cruise boat, they're expecting a night of entertainment. Their food's already paid for, their drinks paid for, whatever the case may be, and that's why the ticket's so much. But that's probably a really, really good. I don't want to take your thunder there and spread it around too much, Rob, because I reckon you're right. And don't worry about me, because I get seasick.
Nah, man. I want to help these cruise companies come back too, because they're struggling as much as anyone else.
Yeah.
So I've just before this happened, I was trying to help them.
Yeah. So what were you doing, Rob? What were you doing?
Just trying to put a program together for the cruise companies. Because I'm a firm believer that in order for my gig to be successful, every other night between me being there and the next time needs to be strong.
Yeah.
So the venue needs to be successful for us all to be successful. So the higher the quality and the caliber of the musician, the higher the quality and numbers within the venue. So from a starting point. So if a venue is regularly getting...
And that carries on night from night, week to week. And the other side of it is as well is, the ultimately it's the show. So how good without just laying it all on us as performers, but how good is the in-house production? We have to also rely on our back line. We have to rely on our lighting. We have to rely on front of house. So for me also, and I totally agree with what you're saying, but I extend that onto the venue to be able to provide us with a medium to which we can perform at our best.
That's where I was spoiled, because Brendan, who was here probably before Rob, and I can't remember if Brendan was here, Marshall, before you jumped on, but that's where I was spoiled, because not only was Brendan, our lead guitarist and the backbone of a lot of the bands that I've been involved in, but he was also front of house and had all the backline. Well, not backline,
he
but
managed all that stuff. That's right.
So,
he had the truck. He had the gear.
He did it all. So.
And maybe Marshall, you can maybe answer this one. So what I'm actually concerned about, because I've got a show tomorrow night with on similar to this. So maybe Rob, you can chime in on this one too tomorrow if you got time. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Tuesday night. What day are we?
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
That is tomorrow
Yeah,
night.
I want to actually talk about this subject we're talking about now, but what I'm worried about is that, yes, with any kind of think tank or let's say music, you need to have all these mediocrity at the bottom, right? And you come up to the finer point and who Dwight works with and blah, blah, blah. But because there's no money in it, all of it fades away. So if everyone at the bottom of the pyramid, whoever that is, all the students, all the people, doing all the cover bands, weekend warriors, if they disappear and they need to find work elsewhere, I'm worried about, live music becoming what happened to the piano because, 100 years ago, there was a piano in everyone's lounge room and everyone could sight read. But as soon as TV came along, it was like, hey, new distraction. Who needs to know this? Now, someone who has a piano is a rarity and someone who can actually sight read is another rarity. But I'm just worried about all these skills everyone has. Everyone needs the coin. They'll go and do something else. Yeah.
Blacksmith still make horseshoes, buddy.
What do you think, Marshall?
Oh, look, I don't know. As you're talking about like education, even with piano, they've even changed the curriculum in the schools lately. So piano's gone. It's a very interesting way. In that way, look, I think it's going to be a time of reinvention for sure. I think things will change because of budgets and a lot of venues down, as what Rob said, for sure. We hope that some things will surface and keep going again. And also the other gigs like the small restaurants and as you say, the surf clubs, it's going to be really interesting, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, this is just the start.
My only issue, Marshall, with the restaurants is for the musician. I mean, when I first started out 30 whatever years ago, 30 odd years ago, in a restaurant 3 nights a week, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me, the artist. It wasn't about me, the musician. It was about the restaurant, and the patrons, and those people sitting. I worked in Narang 3 nights a week. Are we going to head back to that stage where it's no longer about the musician? Is it no longer about the art? Is it no longer about the artistry? Is it no longer about, spending our 10 or 12 hours a day playing our instruments to get to a certain level? Is it going to become humdrum again? Is it going to become karaoke? My greatest issue or my greatest concern is when we get out of this situation, do we head back into a full-blown industry where people have been craving what they've missed out on for the last X amount of months? Or are we going to go,
we don't need it.
We don't need it. We can go to a restaurant and there's some Joe Blogs in the corner. Is it a person?
For sure.
Or is it a machine? And that's my concern as a musician because I make half of my income as a musician, whether it's working in a band or whether it's working for the touring musicians, as their sidekick.
Yeah. You would like
to be about money.
That this might give people a bit of a wake-up call of what they are. We take, how many people take things for granted that obviously just simple day-to-day things that they don't bother doing. When I say taking them for granted, what context I mean. Just the normal, I could go down to the shops, but or I could go to the pub, but I don't feel like.
And buy toilet paper.
Yeah, I can, just these normal things.
Right,
hopefully,
hopefully
it will give people a bit of an aspect of reality of, well, hang on a second, none of this stuff means anything. This is all the stuff that actually means something to me that I didn't even realise. So you would like to,
but sorry, Chris. The other thing is it means more to certain people than it does to others because there are a lot of people that, myself included, that rely 100% on their income through the music industry.
Right,
people lose that.
That's me.
You might actually some dormant ones a bit of a touch up. Because you're not going to get the little wanker who wants to listen to keyboard, when I say keyboard, as in computer keyboard music, you're not going to have them, and you never did. But the ones that maybe like me, who came up with too many excuses to not bother going to see live acts because I'm broken and I can't stand that long because I've got pins in the back and all the rest of that, maybe I'll go out and see a few more gigs again because all
Appreciate it.
have the option to do
so
that.
I just want to ask I just want to ask a question to Rob. So what do you, if, doing your own thing and you're self-sufficient and you've had, as you said, career change from venue manager to musician, what are you going to do for dollars if we're going to be locked down for like the next 6 months?
I know. Work for the dole and be a live streamer, mate. I think that's what it is, isn't it? The government's paying me to entertain people at home on the internet. So I got my first Centrelink payment today. So, I did 2 shows this week.
Go ScoMo.
So that's less money than my 2 solo shows if I did in a week. But still.
It's a backbone for people.
Honestly, for me, the biggest concern is money, because people are going to come out of this if they've deferred on a mortgage. They have to make up those payments at the end.
Drop the
when
house.
Everything opens back up. Yeah, they're going to have to sell their house. Have they been working? Have they been on government benefits on a shoestring budget like a lot of people like us are going to be?
Yep.
And are they going to, when everything opens up, are they going to consolidate? Are they going to then sacrifice going out for enjoying the little things that they had to give up before?
And ultimately, also, what is going to be the sacrifice? Is it going to be a way of life that we knew, which for a lot of people was weekend music? I mean, I was speaking with Rick today, and Rick Brewster today, and we were talking about. Because we talked about a lot of things because we're building a guitar together. You got to understand we were also business partners.
Good mates, yeah.
But we're also talking about like my family, his family, and we care about his welfare. I know his family. I've lived at his place.
Yeah.
He stayed here. He's been to my place. So it's we're not unknown identities. But the whole thing was when we get out of this, when we can actually start to work as musicians, at what level will society be able to allow us to work at? Because the whole point is we were working in what we considered the upper echelon, the Red Hot Summer tours. Okay, so we're playing. The bands are playing in front of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people. I go on tour with the bands, and they're playing between 8 and 1,000 people because they're pub gigs. That's all that they can handle. When I play with the Joe Cocker band, Bruce Bird, he's an amazing singer, amazing band coordinator. Bruce Bird organises the Joe Cocker band, which is also known as the Cocker, the band, the man leads music. We play in front of 300, 400, 500 people, and this is just a cover band. Where
that's what Rob does, right?
Where are we all going to land at? On the other side of this, I was making on a weekend the average person's weekly wage.
Yeah.
When I'm on tour,
Well, I think you're articulating something very important there. With whoever you're working with, is all the what do you call it? Supplementary businesses. So guitar techs will go out of business if you don't have any guitarists, and all the amp guys will go out of business. All the tutors. I mean, I tutor guitar. I do Skype lessons with people around the world, actually, and it's just taken a major dive in the last 2 weeks.
Well, what's going to happen for people like me that, for instance, are hands-on luthiers that actually physically touch your guitar and turn it into something that you want it to be? If I can't afford to feed my family and I've got to do something else, what else happens? You know what I mean?
That's cool.
You know,
Yeah.
because that's where it waters down to as a performing musician, as a performing guitar player. We have to look at, okay, we've all lost our gigging jobs. Now, okay, we've lost our intermediary solo duo gigs. Now, what that streams down to is we can't get our guitars fixed anymore.
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
Because our luthier is now packing shelves at Woolworths.
And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people that have got to there's a lot of people that have got to make similar decisions in their own fields, isn't it?
And that's exactly right. That's exactly right. For us, we have to focus on our field, which is entertainment and music, preferably music first. There are a lot of people that are struggling as much or more than us, and I totally agree with that, because I've been lucky because I come from a different background. So, you know, as you know, Chris, with those Corvettes in my garage.
Well, I just want to ask one more question, and we'll probably just wrap this up. This last question is
3 hours.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't expect this to go for 3 hours. I thought 60 minutes, cool, but it's been awesome, and thank you, Rob, for jumping on.
Tick. That was 60 minutes, man.
Yeah, but that's a good point. But just moving forward. So, what? I don't know. Like maybe just some words of wisdom to some other musos that are actually going to be watching this maybe tomorrow. But just maybe words of encouragement. But maybe how do I? Yeah, just words of wisdom. How to keep the faith. And I don't know who wants to go first. Maybe Marshall. Do you want to go first?
Don't stop playing.
Don't stop playing. So wood shedding.
Keep motivated. Don't be stagnant. Don't be stagnant. And any negative thoughts, push them out. Push them out.
Wanted to learn.
Exactly, Marshall. Yeah. If I may ask a 0.2 second question, if you guys can just first thing that comes to your head obviously within reason when you understand the question I'm asking, to answer your question, Doug, what free software is out there that the average punter that maybe doesn't have any clue really with this, but they do have a laptop and they might have a MIDI cable, or they can go and buy one or order one from preferably not China. And did I say that out loud? Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's look at recording software. What freebies are out there? Like I run Traction 7. What other ones are easy for someone who has no clue that can just maybe get a little bit enthused and plug something in and just record something or try and
make the art.
Or what about backing tracks, free backing tracks?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah. And what about you, Rob? What
Traction 7 with a bit of navigating and stuff? That's not too. You can download the. They seem to be running whatever the last version of the software is. They supply it for free. So it's obviously all of these. Anything free is going to have its limitations. But I found that pretty good. What about you, Dwight? What do you use, or what would you suggest in 30 seconds or less?
Look, I don't use anything.
What does Rick use?
I use what Rick uses.
Okay.
Look. There are too many Angels albums before my time. Reality is, I like to. I've got a multi-effects pedal, which is the M13 or something like that. It's a Boss thing. It's got a looper in it. So I just like to occasionally lay down a loop, which is a little bit different to what I would normally play. I don't want to always play because being in a show band, I have to play charts. Okay, so I'm sitting there. And I play my parts right out a little. Okay, that's my part. I don't.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't play it. Well, it's Joe Cocker. You got to play Joe Cocker. It's not as though I'm there to improvise. But when I want to develop technique, particularly not so much left hand at the moment. I'm really working on right hand because If you go to the American Idol, I think it is. Last year there was a guy called Alejandro Arandes.
Okay.
So Alejandro Arandes. So he came into American Idol and pretty much throughout the entire show lay down his album. But the thing is, his piano first, but his guitar. But his right-hand technique, being a piano player, is absolutely amazing. So,
so you say working on technique. Keep working on technique.
I've been working on alternate tune technique.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
The right hand works fine, but with alternate tuning, it's different. So I've gone to C sharp major.
All right. Yeah, very cool.
I'm using capo.
And then so then maybe just to thank you, Dwight, and just to wrap it up, Rob, what concepts to keep the faith for all the musos out there?
Well, I think a looper pedal is a great way for just people to play music again. You know, like just keep up the chops. Yeah. I got an RC30, which I love because it's got 2 tracks.
I've actually got a Digitech Trio Plus, which I love, just for that. Just the oddballness of it, you know. I know it's not exactly something I'd use live, but just for the smile factor, it's big ass. I haven't played it for a couple of years. I've got to pull it out of the cupboard. You just reminded me of it.
Yeah, and free software. There's obviously GarageBand, which you can have a lot of fun with. On a stereo level, there's Audacity or Reaper if you want to get more into free recording software. And some advice to people. I've always struggled with getting inspired to write original music because as a cover musician, all of my creative energy goes into performing and entertaining. So when I'm on a downtime, it's really difficult to get in that headspace of like, okay, now I've got to create something either on my own or whatever. And it's really difficult. So I would say to people that have been going, like I've been going full tilt for 4 years, 4.5 years since moving up from Sydney. And
good on you, man.
Just take a rest. I implore people just to take a break, right?
Yeah,
reset. Just take some time for you.
Take a break and play your music. You know, forget about all the bullshit.
Just take a break from music. Take a couple of weeks. Spend some time with your wife, your husband, your friend. You know, you can't really go out with friends, but who you're in lockdown with. But enjoy the little things. And then come back refreshed and put that creative energy into something that you're passionate about. And whether that's still performing, but you do it from a different perspective or something. But, you know, when you go hard for a long time, you just have to sometimes be reminded to take a break. So that's the advice I'd give people. Just use this moment to take stock. Syndrome. Yeah, take stock, take a break, and just think of you for a little while.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, then, does anyone else want to add that? No? Cool. Excellent.
No, man.
Well, I just want to say that.
I'll agree with that, Doug. Because over the years, it's always helped to take that break. To take stock, start listening to music rather than just playing it.
Yeah, right. Enjoy the art for what it is, not trying to keep mate. But I just want to add this last bit. I read this really cool book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit number 7 is called Sharpening the Saw. So the only thing I would say is that, if you're going to, I think Rob's was awesome. Hey, I actually pointed the right way just then. That's good.
All
this practice. Yeah, cool. But I think, just find a niche, whatever that may be, and just become expert. Just like now's the time to sharpen up, the down. But I just want to say,
at least improve, your skills or whatever you do.
Yeah, sharpen the saw. Yeah, is a metaphor.
Yeah, it's wood chipping time, man.
What's a metaphor?
Chip away, guys. Rock on.
But thank you again.
On the other side of Corona.
I'm just gonna. You guys can hang here for a second. I'm just gonna hit end broadcast, but. Thank you for hanging. I'll see you again next time.
Peace.
Cheers.
So it's